Jaren Jackson's stat inflation. The theory starts with a wild stat gap between home and road games. Over 16 home games, Jackson totaled 66 blocks and 22 steals. On the road, just 35 blocks and 10 steals. That's nearly double the production at home. Even though his minutes stay the same, his blocks per game jump from about 2 to over 4, and his steals from less than 1 to nearly 1.5. Fans think that's not just about home court energy, it's something deeper. Blocks and steals are counted by the home team's own scorekeeper, and those numbers can get pretty fuzzy. There are clips of Jackson getting credit for stats that clearly belong to teammates nearby. That's led to questions about padding, intentional or not. With Memphis leading the league in pace, more possessions mean more chances for those stats to pile up. And when Morant drives and sucks in defenders, Jackson's left to clean it all up. That system funnels plays right into his hands. Lineups with both Jackson and Morant even post net ratings over 16 per 100 possessions. That gives him volume, and when awards like Defensive Player of the Year rely heavily on those counting stats, people start wondering, advanced metrics also reward blocks and steals more than the subtle stuff like help rotations. So the system's wired to love Jackson's numbers. The Grizzlies' scheme, plus that home bias, and the league's fastest pace. All fuel theories that his box scores look better than his actual defense. Add in betting markets and fan narratives, and it's easy to see why people believe the numbers might be a little too good. Powell's forced trade theory. Fans think Paul's trade to the Lakers in 2008 wasn't just business, it was engineered. First, there's the financial meltdown. Grizzlies owner Michael Heisley had reportedly lost over $87 million, and dumping Paul's salary gave them breathing room. People point out they didn't shop around for better offers, which makes it seem like it was about slashing payroll, not maximizing value. Then there's the 3-year plan theory. Heisley allegedly launched a full teardown in 2007, and moving Powell was step one. The timing lines up perfectly. Mark drafted, attendance cratering, and a clear front office shift toward rebuilding. Add in the brother clause theory. Powell offered to give up $500,000 from his own deal to help bring Mark to Memphis. He practically begged them to add his brother. When Mark's rights were sent to Memphis in the Lakers deal, it looked like Powell forced it. Another big one is the league market bias theory. Critics say the NBA always helps the Lakers, from the Chris Paul veto to shady small market trades. People think the league quietly pushed Memphis to take the deal just to boost ratings. Finally, there's the Kobe ultimatum theory. He'd been loudly frustrated with the Lakers' direction and was reportedly pushing for major changes. Days after the deal, the Lakers took off, going 22-5 with Powell and heading straight to the finals. All of this gives people reason to believe the trade wasn't just a rebuild, it was a move forced by money, pressure, stars, and maybe even the league itself. Theories keep popping up because every part of it, from timing to return to results, feels too perfect to be coincidence. The Zodiac GM. This theory starts with a guy on Twitter called the Zodiac GM, an anonymous fan, tracking over 1,700 player birth charts since 2017. He called the James Harden and Chris Paul fit way before anyone believed it would work. Both Earth signs, and that Rockets team won 65 games and nearly beat the Warriors. From there, he built spreadsheets using Sun, Moon, and Mars signs, organizing them by elemental compatibility: fire, earth, air, and water. The theory says team chemistry has another layer, zodiac energy. When players share elements or complementary modalities, they sync better. That's how he explained why Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, and Luka, all Pisces, seem to dominate team flow. He even predicted the Clippers would click once Harden joined in 2024, grading their lineup A+. They took off after the trade. He also flagged the Bucks' new core as a bad zodiac match for Damian Lillard, water clashing with fire, and they fell apart, losing early and firing their coach. When Boston traded for Drew Holiday, he noted how his Gemini sign blended with the team's Leo energy. The result? Drew settled in fast and balled out in the playoff. He also saw the Jokic-Aaron Gordon pairing coming years in advance, citing the water-earth mix. Even the Knicks' 2024 success fits his theory, with a lineup full of Virgo, Pisces, and Taurus signs, all matching their coach's Capricorn style. Fans have started mapping duos like Jordan and Pippen or Curry and Draymond by zodiac compatibility, claiming it's too consistent to ignore. Whether it's real or not, his spreadsheet-based predictions have hit enough times that some scouts and even front offices are quietly paying attention. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, the 38 numerology theory. Fans think LeBron's record-breaking night was more than a coincidence. It was cosmic choreography. On February 7th, the 38th day of the year, LeBron James scored 38 points, passed Kareem's 38,387 point record, and landed on exactly 38,388 career points. LeBron was 38 years old, and Kareem's record had stood for exactly 38 years. That's where the 38-year prep plan theory starts. Supporters believe the league waited for the perfect alignment. Year 38, age 38, day 38. The second theory claims the game itself was rigged to keep LeBron at 38 points. He scored exactly what he needed, not a point more. The third theory says the league handpicked that February 7th game because it was day 38 on the calendar. Out of all possible games, the record fell then. The fourth theory focuses on how social media leaned into the numerology, blasting 38, 38, 38 in posts, graphics, and highlights. TikTok users, Reddit threads, and even YouTube breakdown spiraled into conspiracy territory fast. Then there's the commissioner narrative theory. Conspiracy believers point to how the camera lingered on the scoreboard, reading 38,388, followed by Kareem and LeBron shaking hands mid-court. Everything from the countdowns to the arena announcement felt too perfect. Supporters argue the visuals were part of the script, making sure that every 38 aligned for the biggest media moment of the season. All of this has led people to believe the record wasn't just broken, it was placed. From the score to the date, the number 38 appeared too often for them to dismiss it as coincidence. Jokic annoys the NBA. Fans believe Shea's MVP win was more about story than stats. He led the league with 32.7 points per game, shot over 51%, and joined Michael Jordan as the only MVPs ever with 30 points, 5 assists, 5 boards, 1.5 steals, and 1 block on that kind of efficiency. His Thunder went 68-14, best in the league, and he walked away with 71 first-place votes. But Nikola Jokic still had the deeper numbers. He posted 34 triple-doubles and led the league in efficiency at 42.2. Even with fewer wins, many analytics sites placed him ahead. So why did Shea win? Theories point to narrative. OKC had a historic season, and voters love a fresh face leading a team to 68 wins. Shea fit the mold. Clutch scorer, media-friendly, highlight machine. Jokic, not so much. He avoids attention, rarely does big interviews, and doesn't push storylines. DeMarcus Cousins even said, "You can't sell him." Some fans also believe the league didn't want to hand Jokic a 4th MVP. Only Wilt, Bill, and Kareem sit in that tier. Jokic just doesn't fit the typical mold for that type of media celebration. That made voters hesitate. Despite 5 straight top 2 finishes, something only Larry Bird and Bill Russell have ever done, he's still seen as an outlier. In a league driven by storylines and visibility, Shea's flash and OKC's rise overshadowed Jokic's machine-like dominance. The numbers may say one thing, but the vote followed the story. The no American face after LeBron theory. This theory starts with fear, real fear inside the league, that once LeBron retires, there's no clear American-born superstar to take his place. For decades, the NBA rode the image of Jordan, then LeBron, with help from guys like Curry and Kobe. All of them were born in the US, carried the flag, and sold the brand globally. But now, the league's brightest rising star might be Wemby, a French phenom. That's why the Zion arc got so much attention. Drafted number 1 in 2019, hyped as a generational talent, Zion had everything. Power, flash, charisma. He started hot, averaging over 22 points as a rookie. But 6 years in, he's played just 214 games. That's less than half. Injuries and conditioning issues crushed the narrative. So who's left? Jason Tatum? Great resume, even won a title, but fans say he's too quiet. Anthony Edwards? He's got swagger, highlights, and a signature shoe, but he's already said he doesn't want to be the face. Devin Booker? Olympic gold, top scorer, but his appeal stays mostly regional. Jalen Brunson? Gritty and clutch, but he's already 28 and doesn't have the global recognition. That's why the theory says all eyes are on Cooper Flagg, a number 1 pick, just 18, and already dubbed the most complete prospect since LeBron. He's long, polished, and media-friendly. After Zion fizzled and the current group hasn't grabbed global momentum, fans think the league is banking everything on Flagg, because without an American icon to balance Wemby's rise, the NBA's marketing machine might face its biggest identity gap in decades. Tim Duncan's delayed retirement theory. The theory says Tim Duncan waited for Kobe Bryant to announce his retirement first, so all the attention would be on Kobe, not him. Kobe told the world on November 29, 2015, that the 2015 to 2016 season would be his last. That gave everyone time to celebrate him with a farewell tour. Every arena gave him gifts, standing ovations, and full-on tributes. Duncan, on the other hand, said nothing. He quietly finished the season, skipped out on the spotlight, and didn't announce his retirement until July 11, 2016, months after the season had ended. He had a player option worth $5.6 million for the next season, but walked away without a press conference or major send-off. Supporters of the theory believe Duncan could have easily retired during the year or made his plans known earlier, but instead, he let Kobe soak up all the spotlight. Duncan never wanted a tribute tour or media circus. The theory claims he knew the league, the fans, and the press would give everything to Kobe if he retired first. So he waited on purpose. Kevin Garnett, another legend from the same draft class, also retired after that season, but made his announcement in late September, well after Duncan. So all three walked away the same year, but only Kobe turned it into a farewell season. Duncan, true to form, let someone else take the stage. Fans say this wasn't just personality, it was planned. He waited, stepped aside, and exited without distraction. That fits everything we've ever seen from Tim Duncan. No drama, no spotlight, just basketball and then silence. Nike, Kyrie team, USA theory. After Nike dropped Kyrie in 2022, fans say it wasn't just his sneaker deal that got cut, it was his pipeline to the Olympics. The theory goes like this. Nike, as the exclusive apparel sponsor of Team USA, has quiet influence over who makes the roster. Kyrie lost the Nike badge and then lost his shot at Paris. The facts line up. Kyrie had gold in 2016. He's still an elite guard, but in 2024, he didn't even get an invite. Instead, Team USA stacked the backcourt with Nike-linked players like Steph Curry, Drew Holiday, Devin Booker, and Tyrese Halliburton. Then after Kawhi Leonard dropped out, they chose Derek White, another Nike guy, not Kyrie. Kyrie called it out gently, saying he didn't fit in and that tryouts would have made sense. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown, also left off the roster and also not wearing Nike, wasn't quiet. He flat out implied Nike had their hands on the roster. One tweet read, "Nike, this what we doing?" When asked later if he believed Nike blocked him, he said, "I do, for sure." And here's where it sharpens. Team USA director Grant Hill has worked with Nike before. 11 of 12 players on the Olympic roster were Nike-backed. Fans argue it's not a coincidence, it's brand control. Kyrie's out of their ecosystem, so he's out of the lineup. The theory says this wasn't about basketball, it was about logo loyalty. Kyrie went from gold medalist to persona non grata right after the deal ended. Jaylen's snub sealed the vibe. No Nike, no invite. To believers, it wasn't selection, it was sponsorship. Wilt Chamberlain's mountain lion theory. The story goes that Wilt was driving through the desert, somewhere in Arizona or New Mexico, when a mountain lion jumped on his shoulder. Wilt supposedly reached behind, grabbed the animal by the tail, and flung it into the nearby brush like it was nothing. This tale didn't come from tabloid. It was shared by Cal Ramsey, a former NBA player and broadcaster. He said Wilt told him the story personally, and even showed him massive scratch marks on his shoulder. Ramsey admitted he wasn't there, but also said, "I'm not about to say it didn't happen." That alone turned it into one of the most repeated stories in Wilt's mythos. The New York Times first referenced it in 1987, and it's lived on in forums, Reddit threads, and sports lore ever since. There are no police reports, no medical records, and no witnesses. Still, fans push the story because it fits the legend. Wilt stood 7 feet 1 inch, weighed 275 pounds, and was rumored to have superhuman strength. He ran track, lifted weights, and boxed. If anyone could fight a wild animal with his bare hands, they say it'd be him. The mountain lion tale is treated like folklore. It's not confirmed, not debunked, just part of Wilt's long list of wild stories. No expert has verified it, but no one close to Wilt ever called him a liar either. Whether you believe it or not, the scratch marks and the man telling it make the story too good to ignore. It's not NBA history, it's Wilt Chamberlain legend. Giannis, trade leak theory. This theory says the NBA is using ESPN to leak trade rumors and push Giannis out of Milwaukee. Since 2023, the Bucks have been bounced out of the first round 3 years in a row. Even though Giannis is under contract through 2028, ESPN keeps rolling out segments hinting he wants out. Shams Charania said he's open-minded about the future, but that's not the same as requesting a trade. Local reporters have said again and again that Giannis hasn't asked out, and he's publicly said he loves Milwaukee. Still, ESPN's coverage keeps pushing the "he's leaving" storyline. Charles Barkley called them out, saying they're trying to push Giannis out just for headlines. Fans started to notice the pattern too. Every offseason, new trade destinations pop up: Miami, Los Angeles, Golden State, and always with vague sources or speculative tweets. The theory claims this isn't random. It says the league wants its biggest stars in big markets. If they can't move Giannis directly, they leak stories to create pressure. That way, when he does leave, it feels expected. Pushing trade rumors stirs up fan bases, boosts clicks, and preps the narrative. When ESPN anchors bury disclaimers under dramatic headlines, theorists see that as calculated. They believe the NBA uses the media to test reactions and soften the blow for a future move. Whether it's orchestrated or not, the pattern is clear. Local reporters say he's staying, national outlets say he's gone, and fans are stuck in the middle. The theory doesn't prove anything, but after years of non-stop speculation with no trade request, believers think the pressure isn't coming from Giannis, it's coming from the top. Dennis Johnson's silencing theory. This theory says the NBA covered up Dennis Johnson's death to protect a darker truth, one involving drugs, mob ties, and internal trafficking. In the late 1970s and early 80s, the league was falling apart. Drug use was rampant, the public had lost trust, and stories of organized crime were floating around. Dennis Johnson, a respected and clean-cut player, allegedly saw something he shouldn't have. According to the theory, he uncovered a trafficking network that stretched from players to team staff to ownership. He supposedly tried to speak out, but quickly became paranoid. He started double-locking hotel doors, asking about hidden cameras, and told teammates, "You don't understand? Who's really in charge?" Then there's the letter. In 1990, a former editor claimed to have received an anonymous warning about a champion guard who knew too much. The letter said he was being followed, that he knew about owners and laundering, and that they'd make it look like a heart attack. Johnson collapsed and died in 2007 after practice. No health problems, no autopsy, and no video. Just sudden death, exactly how the letter described it. Even stranger, he was reportedly working on a book about the NBA's dark secrets, writing, "The truth won't be fun to read." After his death, he was barely acknowledged in the Celtics' 2008 championship celebration and was kept out of multiple documentaries. He didn't make the Hall of Fame until years later. The theory claims that the NBA erased him, not just from the spotlight, but from history. His death, they believe, wasn't natural. It was the price for knowing too much. Adam Silver's Memphis exit strategy. Believers think the NBA is quietly engineering the Grizzlies' collapse to justify a future move to Nashville. It starts with Morant's punishments, an 8-game suspension in 2023, then a 25-game suspension for another firearm video, followed by a $75,000 fine for a finger gun gesture. All of it felt excessive to fans, especially when compared to past players like Gilbert Arenas or Chris Kaman posting firearm photos with no discipline. Then there's the schedule. By February 2025, Memphis had the 11th hardest closing stretch in the league, a brutal playoff path for a team already sliding. That same year, chatter around Nashville ramped up. Stadium plans, WNBA expansion bids, and a major push for more pro sports gave rise to relocation speculation. The theory connects those dots. Punish the face of the franchise, stack the odds against wins, and let media and fans erode trust from within. Despite having owners with Memphis ties, like Justin Timberlake and Penny Hardaway, believers say the league's top brass can override that. Reddit threads and social media posts have flagged the timing. Ja's image fallout, the team's record, and Nashville's rise as suspiciously aligned. Even NBA personalities have weighed in. Some called the league's discipline pattern selective, while others floated that Memphis, a small market, may be on the way out. The theory doesn't claim there's a memo saying, "Move the Grizzlies," but it argues the conditions are being built step by step. Ja's decline, the impossible schedule, franchise instability, and a nearby market exploding with opportunity, it all leads to one outcome: Memphis losing its team under the weight of what looks more and more like a scripted collapse. The buddy contract theory. This is Otis Smith and Gilbert Arenas. This theory says former Magic GM Otis Smith brought in Gilbert Arenas not for basketball reasons, but because of a personal bond. Back in the early 2000s, Smith worked in the Warriors front office while Arenas was breaking out. Smith reportedly mentored him during that time. Years later, in 2010, Smith traded for Arenas, who was deep into decline and still owed over $100 million from a 6-year deal with Washington. Arenas was no longer a star. He had knee injuries, off-court baggage, and was putting up low-efficiency numbers. Still, Smith brought him to Orlando, took on his massive contract, and ultimately paid him over $40 million after cutting him using the amnesty clause. Arenas played 49 games for the Magic, started only 2, averaged 8 points, and barely over 3 assists, and shot just 34%. Analysts called it one of the worst contracts in team history. The theory says Smith's loyalty blinded him. Fans point to the massive cap hit, Arenas' poor performance, and Smith's emotional investment as signs this wasn't a normal trade. It was a favor. Grantland and ESPN even used the phrase, "still haunts the Magic" years later. With no production, huge financial fallout, and a direct mentor link between GM and player, The theory holds weight. Smith had better options, but he chose a former project and paid for it. Believers say that wasn't basketball business. It was personal, a buddy contract that cost Orlando dearly. The Gary Payton 2 gambling theory. This theory exploded after a TikTok clip surfaced showing Payton pointing to 109.5 before a Warriors vs. Wizards game. Fans instantly tied it to the game's betting line. On the same day, 2 X accounts claimed the NBA was investigating Payton for gambling violations. No major media outlet confirmed this, but TikTok and Reddit ran with it. Theory says Payton was either placing bets, tipping spreads, or helping someone else do it. Supporters also point out that Payton's limited minutes seem to align with specific spread scenarios, especially in games where the Wizards were favored by over 7 points. Some Reddit users say his body language and foul reactions felt scripted, like he was reacting to prop bet misses. Others think the NBA is staying silent to avoid another Donaghy-type scandal, but is testing the public's response before acting. There's also confusion around the Gary Payton name. His father worked in sports betting media, and believers say this overlap muddies the waters and shields his son. Still, the league has said nothing. No suspension, no investigation, and no denial. That silence is exactly what fuels this theory. Believers think the NBA is trying to protect its image while quietly watching one of the most bizarre storylines unfold. Was Payton 2 just caught in coincidence? Or is he the first test case in a player betting scandal the league desperately wants buried? Either way, fans think this goes deeper than just a number on a chalkboard. Suns, Spurs theory. This one's burned into Suns fans' brains like a desert mirage that never fades. Game 4, 2007. Robert Horry checks Steve Nash so hard, it sends him flying into the scorer's table. It's wild. Nash gets up, still playing like a magician. But everything changes. Stat and Boris Diaw react, step off the bench just a bit, and boom, suspension. That one move wiped them out of a massive Game 5 at home. Fans were stunned because they didn't fight, didn't get in anyone's face, they just stood up. But the NBA rules unforgiving. Leave the bench, you're out. David Stern backed it up like it was sacred text. But here's where the theory rolls in. Spurs players like Tim Duncan and Bruce Bowen stood up during tense moments too. No punishment. It looked selective. Then the Suns drop Game 5 by 3 points, even with a double-digit lead, and crash out in Game 6. That's when the whispers got louder. Enter Tim Donaghy, the ref who later got caught in a betting scandal. He said the supervisor in charge straight up hated the Suns owner and basically dictated the entire tone of the series. Nothing about betting, just bias in the shadows. That's what fans latched onto. The Spurs were a rising dynasty. Phoenix was flashy but problematic behind the scenes, and suddenly calls seemed to tip one way. You stack that with other fishy series like the 2001 Kings or 2006 Mavericks, and it starts looking familiar. A high-stakes series, stars sidelined, and an officiating crew under supervision. Fans say the Game 5 suspensions weren't just harsh, they were surgical. Embiid Edgecombe theory. The idea here is that the Sixers made their draft pick, not just for the future, but to patch the present. Joel Embiid had knee surgery again in April, and fans noticed the silence from the front office got louder right around draft night. Instead of trading that number 3 pick for a known player, they held onto it and chose VJ Edgecombe, a teenage guard with serious defense and athletic upside, but not exactly a playoff savior. The twist? Embiid's massive contract and the fact he only played 19 games last season. The theory goes that the front office saw the writing on the wall and decided to build insurance, not just support. Edgecombe's known for maturity and character, sure, but not many top 3 picks are chosen just for vibes. Daryl Morey called him essential, linked him to Embiid and George, and dodged questions about trade talks. That's when fans started framing the pick as timeline management. One Reddit post even called Embiid icing on the cake, suggesting Edgecombe was drafted in case the cake melts. It's not that Edgecombe's a reach, it's that his arrival seems way too perfectly timed. The knee news leaks, and then boom, Philly skips the star trades and leans into high character youth. The theory lives because it fits. Protect Embiid, prepare for decline, and spin it like strategy. Whether that was the real motive or just smoke, fans think it's more than just a coincidence. Webber curse theory. When Chris Webber arrived in Golden State after the 1993 draft, everything clicked fast. Rookie of the year, 50 wins, and playoff buzz that hadn't been around in a while. But then it unraveled faster than a loose shoelace. Webber clashed with Coach Don Nelson over his role, wanted to pass and stretch from the 4, not bang at center. That power struggle turned into a standoff, and he used his escape clause to walk out after one season. The Warriors traded him for Tom Gugliotta and some of their own picks they just sent to Orlando. So yes, they basically reverse traded themselves into a void. What followed? Brutal. The next year they dropped to 26 wins and then wandered the basketball desert for 12 years. They missed the playoffs every season from 1995 through 2006, drafting Joe Smith instead of Kevin Garnett, passing on Steve Nash, Tracy McGrady. All those moves stacked up, but fans blamed the moment Webber left. It felt like a curse. They had a shot at something big and lost it by trading away the guy who changed everything. What made it feel cursed was the symmetry. Webber leaves. Everything collapses. From style of play to draft strategy, it all sagged. The team stopped innovating and started guessing. Fans on Reddit and articles like Bleacher Report kept coming back to that one trade. They said it like a chant. Webber left, and the team forgot how to win. It wasn't just bad luck. The theory sticks because it feels personal. Webber was the spark, and the fire got yanked before it ever really caught. The Warriors didn't recover until 2007, and by then, people had long bought into the idea that a curse was the only thing that made it all make sense. Father's Day Finals theory. After 3 straight wins in the 1996 Finals, the Bulls looked unstoppable. They were up 3-0 on the Supersonics, fresh off a 22-point blowout in Game 3. Fans expected a sweep, easy. Then somehow, the Bulls dropped 2 games by double digits. Game 4 and 5 in Seattle weren't even close. That's where the theory kicks in. With the old 2-3-2 format, losing those 2 road games meant the series shifted back to Chicago for Game 6. On Sunday, June 16th, Father's Day, Jordan's first title since his dad was murdered in 1993. That timing? Too perfect for some fans to believe it just happened. Jordan shot 26% in Game 4. Game 5 wasn't much better. Those performances sparked claims that the Bulls took their foot off the gas. They didn't rest starters or sit rotations, but people noticed a change in energy. The theory says they dialed down the intensity just enough to stretch the series and deliver that emotional payoff at home. Jordan collapsed in tears on the floor after Game 6. Post-game, everyone framed the win around his father. Reddit threads and old forums still point to quotes like, "They gave Seattle 2 to lock in that Sunday moment." No one's claiming rigged officiating or shady deals. It's more about narrative control. You win Game 6 at home on Father's Day. The league gets its ratings. Jordan gets the symbolism, and fans get a memory that sticks forever. The sweep was there. Instead, the Bulls made history on a date that carried weight, whether it was strategic, emotional, or both. That's why the theory still gets brought up almost 30 years later. Lillard comeback theory. When Damian Lillard asked out in 2023, fans thought it was the end of an era. But the theory is he always planned his comeback. Portland traded him to Milwaukee, and for a second, it looked like he'd finally left for good. But injuries, timing, and one strange reunion later, he's back. And the theory says he was never really gone. This one's built around the idea that Lillard's Bucks stint was a stopover, not a destination. He said it himself in July. "I never wanted to leave Portland." That's not subtle. Even before the waiver, insiders noted he asked to rehab near his family in Portland. Then the Bucks stretch his contract. And somehow, Lillard signs a new deal with the Blazers within weeks. 3 years, $42 million, full no-trade clause, and a player option. That's not a flyer. That's a homecoming contract. He turned down interest from Boston, Miami, and Golden State, contenders, but he chose a non-playoff team because of his roots. The contract structure locks him in on his terms. Fans say the exit was strategic. The Blazers moved him, collected assets, then reeled him back at a discount. One Reddit post put it like this: "Trade Dame to get the team Dame always needed, then get Dame back." From a team control perspective, it's chess. Lillard's return fits every beat of a planned arc. Public trade, quiet discontent, injuries that made a reunion both inevitable and practical. He leaves at his peak, then walks back in when the timing's right. Whether the plan was formal or just fate, the result's the same. Lillard's back, with his city, his team, and full control. To some, he never left. He just hit pause. Narrative star theory. Fans say the NBA doesn't just let stars shine, it clears the path. The theory goes like this: referees, whether trained or subtly influenced, give narrative players the benefit of the doubt. The league gets iconic moments, ratings stay up, and no one wants to see the biggest name sidelined. LeBron James averaged fewer than 2 fouls a game for over a decade. He's been in the paint, defending, driving for almost his whole career, and somehow avoids foul trouble like it's part of the branding. In over 1,000 games by 2014, he'd fouled out only 6 times. Meanwhile, Steph Curry got bounced in Game 6 of the 2016 Finals with 6 fouls before the fourth quarter even ended, while LeBron played 47 minutes untouched. Then there's Kawhi Leonard in 2019. His buzzer beater in Game 7 against the Sixers is a legend now, but JJ Redick rewatched the film and said Kawhi traveled. Tobias Harris and Mike Scott agreed. The whistle never came. The theory says when a highlight is building, refs step back. And you can't talk about narrative whistles without mentioning the Jordan push. Game 6, 1998 Finals. Bulls down 1. Jordan crosses over Brian Russell, but not before giving him a clear shove with the left hand. No whistle, just a clean finish to the perfect ending. Fans have argued that for years. If it were anyone else, that's an offensive foul. Studies show refs favor the home team, the team that's trailing, and specific individuals. Donaghy even claims stars got unofficial preference. So when LeBron doesn't foul, Kawhi travels without a call, and Jordan finishes his dynasty with a shove, the theory kicks in. Stars sell stories. Refs, keep the plot intact. Kings 43 game. This one was rough. The Sacramento Kings hold the record for the longest road losing streak in NBA history. 43 straight losses away from home. It started all the way back on November 21st, 1990, and dragged on for over a year. That first road loss, a close one against Philadelphia, but it didn't stay close for long. During the 1990-91 season, the Kings were in full disaster mode. They kicked things off with a 1-13 start and just kept finding new ways to lose. They ended the year at the bottom of the Pacific Division with a 25-57 record. But the real kicker, they went 1-40 on the road. One win out of 40 road games. That's the worst road record in NBA history, ever. The pain bled into the next season too. The streak didn't snap until November 23rd, 1991, when they barely edged out Orlando. That's right, it took them over a calendar year to win a game on the road. And those losses weren't close either. They were getting blown out by an average of over 16 points per game. Eventually, the front office had seen enough and fired head coach Dick Motta after they started the new season 7-18. Even now, that 43-game skid stands as a brutal reminder of how far off the rails things can go. Brandon Knight's big 3L moments. Let's start with the one that broke the internet. Back in March of 2013, DeAndre Jordan launched into orbit and dunked over Brandon Knight like he wasn't even there. Chris Paul floated up a perfect lob, and Jordan turned it into a poster so savage it sparked fake obituary memes. Fans exploded online, and Knight, bless his soul, got turned into a punchline overnight. Then came All-Star Weekend that same year. The Rising Stars Challenge was Kyrie's personal highlight reel, and Knight was his favorite prop. Kyrie dropped not one, but 2 crossovers that sent Knight sliding like a folding chair on ice. The crowd went wild. Kyrie smirked, and the cameras made sure the whole world saw it on loop. That clip lives forever in crossover history, and Knight unfortunately got the starring role without asking. Now, fast forward to November 19, 2014. The Bucks and Nets were deep into a triple overtime battle. Brandon Knight had the ball, wide open, streaking down the court. He went up for a layup that would have ended the game, and he missed it. Nobody was near him, but somehow, he bricked it. To his credit, he bounced back, hit a huge 3 to tie it later, knocked down clutch free throws, and helped seal the win. Still, people remember the miss. That one play became the headline, while the redemption quietly faded behind it. 3 moments, 1 player, a whole lot of internet trauma. Celtics traded Desmond Bane. They had the 30th overall pick in the 2020 draft and used it to select Desmond Bane, only to hand him off to the Grizzlies in a 3-team deal that also involved Portland. What did they get back? 2 second-round picks and Mario Hezonja. That's it. Desmond Bane's rights, plus Enes Kanter and some cash, all gone for a return that made almost zero noise at the time. Those 2 picks, the 2023 pick, helped Boston trade for Mike Muscala, who played 20 games and was later tossed into the Kristaps trade. The other pick, set for 2025, helped them bring back Al Horford, who's definitely valuable, but also nearing the end of his run. So yeah, not nothing, but not exactly jaw-dropping. Meanwhile, Desmond Bane turned into a lights-out shooter and one of the best 2-way guards in the league. He made the all-rookie second team and just kept climbing. Analysts have not been kind to Boston about this one. The move's often called haunting, and fans still groan whenever Bane goes off for 30. It's not that the Celtics got absolutely nothing. It's just that they gave away a player with serious upside for what now feels like spare change. This trade hasn't aged well, and it's hard not to think they'd love a do-over. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Sixers went 9-73. That's not a typo. That was their final record. They won only 9 games out of 82. It's still the worst full season record in league history, and honestly, it's hard to imagine anyone topping it. They lost 15 straight to start, then threw in a 20-game skid later. At one point, they were sitting at 458. Their only real spark came in mid-February when they somehow won 5 out of 7, beating good teams like Milwaukee and New York. But those flashes didn't matter. By the end, they were 12 points worse than opponents every night on average. The whole thing was a mess, and not just on the court. They couldn't land a coach, tried for college legends, and struck out. Ended up hiring Roy Rubin, who'd never coached in the league. That went exactly as you'd expect. Players called him a con man. When they finally replaced him with Kevin Loffery, they still finished 5-26, so yeah, that helped. Hal Greer was the only one left from their title team 6 years earlier. Everyone else was gone. Trades and bad drafting gutted the roster. The city called them the 9 and 73ers, and fans still use that season as the bottom of the barrel. Author Charlie Rosen literally wrote a book about how bad it was. Even now, when a team's falling apart, people point back to this squad. This wasn't just a losing team, it was a slow-motion disaster that never stopped crashing. Knicks drafted Kevin Knox over Shea. Both played together at Kentucky during the 2017 to 2018 season, so the Knicks front office had a front row seat to evaluate them. They even had Shea in for a pre-draft workout, and still, they picked Knox 9th overall. Shea went 11th and was traded to the Clippers that same night. Now let's be real, this one has aged like spoiled milk. Knox was chosen partly because the Knicks needed a forward. They already had a young guard in Frank Ntilikina, so they locked in on positional need. But Shea showed more versatility, more field, and way more upside. Even in college, the red flags on Knox's game were flashing, but the Knicks still rolled the dice. In hindsight, it's brutal. Shea turned into an MVP and a Finals MVP. Knox, he never found his role. He bounced around teams, struggled with minutes, and his development stalled almost immediately. Analysts didn't hold back. Stefan Bondi called it egregious. Fans still bring up how wild it is that Knox was rated higher than Shea. One Reddit thread said, "It's kinda crazy the Knicks watched both side by side and got it that wrong." This wasn't just a bad draft pick. It's a full-on organizational whiff. The Knicks scouted both guys, saw them in the same system, and still took the one who flamed out. That makes it sting more than most misses. It's a cold reminder of how talent evaluation can totally backfire. Cavs collapsed. After LeBron left, in 2010, LeBron took his talents elsewhere and Cleveland fell straight through the floor. They went from 61 wins to just 19 the very next season. That's a 42-win drop, the worst single-season decline in the league history. Then came the losing streak, 26 straight games from late December to mid-February. It set the single-season record and tied the all-time mark for any American pro team. They finally snapped it in overtime against the Clippers, but by then the damage was done. Everything around the franchise was unraveling. Danny Ferry stepped down, Mike Brown got fired, and Byron Scott stepped in. The roster was gutted. Zydrunas Ilgauskas followed LeBron to Miami, and the Cavs brought in guys like Ryan Hollins and Christian Eyenga. That's not exactly a title squad. On the court, it was a mess. They went 0-16 in January, the first winless month in franchise history. They gave up 80 points in one half against Denver. They scored just 57 points total in a game and lost to the Lakers by 55. By season's end, they were dead last in the East and looked nothing like a team that had been a contender just a year earlier. The bright side, they landed the #1 pick in the 2011 draft and selected Kyrie. That became the start of their long, uneven climb back to relevance. But the fall? That one's still legendary. CJ McCollum's brutal playoff record. He's played in 67 playoff games and only won 20. That's it. 20 wins, 47 losses. That puts him at a 29.9% winning rate, the lowest in NBA history for any player with at least 50 playoff games. Not low among active players, not just among guards. Lowest ever. Steve Blake, slightly better at 32.1%. Thaddeus Young, 32.8%. Mookie Blaylock, 33.3%. CJ is holding down the bottom, and it's not even close. Now, before anyone blames him entirely, let's be clear. He's been productive. In the playoffs, he's averaged over 20 points, with 4 boards and 3 assists. He's shown up, but the teams around him, not so much. Portland had plenty of tough matchups and early exits. Same story in New Orleans. The stat hits harder because it's not from a small sample. 67 games means he's been to the playoffs again and again, just to watch his team come up short almost every time. It's a rare case of a consistently solid, individual postseason performer racking up loss after loss. It's the kind of stat you have to double check because it doesn't seem real, but it is. CJ McCollum has the worst playoff win percentage of anyone with that much experience. He's got the minutes, the points, the highlights, but not the wins. This one's not just tough, it's historically rough. Kuzma's Game 1, statless disaster. In just over 21 minutes, Kyle Kuzma managed to record exactly 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 blocks, 0 steals, 5 missed shots from the field, 2 missed free throws, and a brutal -24 plus-minus. It wasn't just quiet, it was historically invisible. Only 5 other players in NBA playoff history have played at least 20 minutes and put up all zeros in the major stat categories. That's since steals and blocks started being tracked in the 70s. Guys like Mike Dunleavy, Bruce Bowen, Brent Barry, and Maurice Lucas. Kuzma just added his name to a list nobody wants to join. Doc Rivers tried to spin it, saying it's hard to score when you don't touch the ball. But the numbers don't fully back him up. Kuzma had 3 first-half shots, not 2, and only 1 of his 5 total attempts came late in the shot clock. Meanwhile, Giannis put up 36 and 12. The problem? Almost nobody else helped. Kuzma and Taurean Prince both went scoreless, and the Pacers took full advantage. The Bucks needed their role players to show up. Kuzma showed up in uniform, but that's about it. This wasn't just a rough night. It was one of the coldest stat lines you'll ever see in playoff history. When your name ends up in the record books for doing nothing, that's not just an off game. Warriors went 73-9 and didn't finish the job. After putting together the best regular season in NBA history, Golden State finished the job half-baked. They won 73 games, more than Jordan's Bulls ever did, and still came up empty. They tore through the regular season. No back-to-back losses. Nobody beat them twice. They dropped over 1,000 threes, set the road win record, and Steph Curry won his second MVP, unanimously. First time that ever happened. Then the playoffs. Houston, handled in 5, Portland, 5 again, Oklahoma City, pushed them to 7, but the Warriors came back from down 3-1. That should have been the warning sign, because in the finals, it flipped. They went up 3-1 on Cleveland. Looked like a wrap, but then Draymond Green got suspended for Game 5. LeBron and Kyrie both dropped 41. Series went to 3-2. Game 6, LeBron did it again. Curry fouled out and got tossed after throwing his mouthguard. Then came Game 7. Cleveland won 93-89. The Warriors couldn't close. They became the first team to blow a 3-1 lead in the finals, the first 70-plus win team to lose the title, and the Cavaliers won it all on the road. For all the records, all the flash, all the three-pointers, Golden State's year ended with a footnote that still stings. 73 wins and nothing to show for it. It's one of the biggest L's in league history, and it's not up for debate. Nick Anderson missed 4 straight free throws. In Game 1 of the 1995 NBA Finals, the Magic were up 110-107 with under 10 seconds left. Anderson, a 70% free throw shooter, got fouled. This was the moment to ice the game. He missed the first, then the second, got his own rebound, fouled again. 2 more chances, missed the third, then the fourth, 4 in a row, all zeros. The Rockets grabbed the rebound, called timeout, and Kenny Smith hit a three-pointer with 1.6 seconds left to send it to overtime. Houston won 120-118 and never looked back. The Magic got swept. This wasn't just one rough trip to the line. It cracked everything. Anderson never shot over 64% from the line again in any season after that. He later admitted it got in his head. His teammates felt it too. Shaq said when Anderson missed the first 2, he still believed in him. Penny said the team lost its spirit after Game 1 and never recovered. Only seconds separated the Magic from a 1-game lead in their first finals appearance. Instead, it became one of the most painful collapses in finals history. That moment, those 4 misses, haunted Anderson's career and marked the beginning of the end in Orlando. One sequence, 4 misses, a shot at a title, gone. Wolves picked Rubio and Flynn over Steph Curry. In the 2009 draft, Minnesota had back-to-back lottery picks, 5th and 6th overall. With both, they went all in on point guards. First, they grabbed Ricky Rubio out of Spain. Then they took Johnny Flynn from Syracuse. Sitting there, still available at pick number 7, was Steph Curry. And Minnesota let him slide. Golden State scooped him up right after. The rest is NBA history. Curry became a 2-time MVP, a multi-time champion, and the league's all-time leader in three-pointers made. Meanwhile, Rubio had a decent career, but never sniffed superstar status. Flynn, he lasted 3 seasons. David King, the Timberwolves general manager at the time, later explained the decision. He said Curry's camp made it clear he didn't want to play in Minnesota, so rather than deal with the drama, they skipped him twice. In his own words, drafting Curry anyway would have taken real cojones. It didn't help that the team had already drafted another point guard, so doubling down was risky, but it also meant Curry went to the Warriors, one of the most transformative turns in league history. Analysts still call it one of the worst draft decisions ever. Flynn's career derailed almost immediately, and Rubio never became the franchise player Minnesota needed. Passing on Steph Curry, not once, but twice? That's not just bad judgment. That's a full-on franchise-level L that fans and front offices still talk about 15 years later. Anthony Bennett started his career with 0 buckets. The first overall pick in the 2013 draft couldn't buy a field goal in his first 4 NBA games. That's not exaggeration. He literally went 0 for 16 from the field. His only points came from 2 free throws. That's it, 2 points in 4 games. This wasn't just a cold streak, it was history. Since the common draft era began in 1966, no number 1 pick had ever scored fewer points in their first 4 games. And then came Game 5. That's when he finally made a field goal, breaking the drought that had already become a punchline. For context, guys like LeBron James, Blake Griffin, Kyrie, and Anthony Davis all came into the league, making noise right away. Bennett, 4 of his first 5 games ended without a single made basket. That's a start no top pick had ever stumbled into. The rookie struggles weren't just obvious, they were historic. And from that moment on, the conversation shifted from expectations to damage control. The start of Anthony Bennett's career didn't just disappoint. It set the tone for one of the most infamous draft selections in league history. When your first points come in Game 5 and your first 4 games look like this, the L sticks for a long, long time. Kings lost both Fox and Halliburton. It started in 2017 when Sacramento drafted Fox with the 5th overall pick. 3 years later, they landed Tyrese Halliburton at 12. 2 promising point guards, both under 25, both seen as long-term franchise pieces. But within 3 years, both were gone. In February 2022, the Kings traded Halliburton to Indiana. The return, Domantas Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a second-round pick. At the time, it was clear Sacramento had chosen Fox. Halliburton didn't fit, and the front office went all in on one guard while shipping out the other. Then came February 2025. The Kings flipped Fox to the Spurs in a 3-team deal that brought back Zach LaVine, Sidi Sissoko, and draft capital. That's it. Both Fox and Halliburton drafted just 3 years apart, both gone by 2025. Sports Illustrated reported the Kings had nearly traded Fox instead of Halliburton back in 2022, but changed course. Fans never forgot that. What made it worse? After trading Halliburton, the Kings built around Fox, then traded him too. They reset around one guard, then bailed again. For a team known for misfires, this 2-step guard purge became the latest disaster. Sacramento invested top picks in 2 talented guards, then watched both walk out the door by choice. For a franchise chasing relevance, that's not just an L. That's a blueprint for going in circles. Cavs, let Isaiah Hartenstein walk. In 2021, Cleveland had a legit steal. Hartenstein came over midseason and played just 16 games, but made the most of them. In under 18 minutes a night, he averaged over 8 points, 6 rebounds, and more than 1 block. Efficient, active, and reliable off the bench. Then came the offseason. Hartenstein declined his $1.8 million player option, becoming a restricted free agent. That gave Cleveland the chance to match any offer. But instead of playing it safe, they just didn't bother. No qualifying offer, no fallback. They let him become an unrestricted free agent with zero control over where he landed next. Fast forward, ESPN called this Cleveland's biggest roster mistake of the decade. Not missing a draft pick, not a bad trade, letting Hartenstein walk for nothing. Because he didn't just survive after leaving, he flourished. He became a dependable defensive anchor, a high IQ big who contributed on playoff teams and eventually won a title. Cleveland gave up a young, cheap, ascending center for absolutely nothing. It wasn't a salary cap crunch. It wasn't roster overflow. They just let him go. And that decision aged horribly. While the Cavs spent years juggling front court depth, Hartenstein became exactly the kind of role player teams chase every summer. When you get value from a trade, see flashes of upside, then immediately cut ties, that's not just a missed opportunity. It's a self-inflicted L that keeps echoing through every highlight he makes in another jersey. Bulls imploded after Jordan's second retirement. In 1998, Chicago finished off their 6th championship with a second three-peat under Phil Jackson, powered by Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. Then it all fell apart. Jackson walked away after his contract ended, refusing to coach a rebuilding team. Jordan followed, announcing his second retirement in January of 1999, right before a lockout-shortened season began. What came next was chaos. Pippen got traded to Houston. Rodman signed with the Lakers. Steve Kerr, Luke Longley, Judd Boettcher, and Scott Burrell all left too. The roster was gutted, and behind the scenes, the front office tension between Jackson and GM Jerry Krause boiled over, splitting the team from the inside. The 98-99 season was only 50 games long. Chicago won 13 of them, 13-37. That was the record. They missed the playoffs for the first time since 1984 and set a modern-era record by scoring just 49 points in a single game. At one point, they didn't even have enough players under contract to run a full practice. From dynasty to disaster in less than a year. It wasn't just the end of a great run, it was a crash landing. Randy Brown, who was on that last title team, said the group could have won a 4th straight if they'd stayed together. But instead, the Bulls broke the machine and spent years trying to rebuild it. No Jordan, No Jackson, just 13 wins and a giant L. Wizards drafted Johnny Davis over Jalen Williams. In 2022, Washington had the 10th overall pick and went with Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin. 2 picks later, Oklahoma City took Jalen Williams from Santa Clara. Today, that choice looks like one of the most brutal draft decisions of the decade. Davis came in with high hopes after averaging nearly 20 points in college, but he never found a rhythm in the NBA. In 3 seasons, he averaged just 3.5 points per game on poor shooting splits. He was eventually traded, waived, and now plays in the G League, without logging a single minute for Memphis. Meanwhile, Jalen Williams became a rising star almost overnight. He made the all-rookie first team, earned an all-star nod, and played a key role in helping the Thunder win a title. His mix of scoring, defense, and playmaking turned him into one of the biggest steals of that draft class. They didn't just miss on a prospect, they passed on a future all-star and NBA champion for a player who couldn't stick in a rotation. This wasn't a case of hindsight bias. It was a blown opportunity with franchise-level consequences. The Wizards could have had a dynamic wing to build around. Instead, they drafted a guard who flamed out fast. When a team gets leapfrogged in their own draft window, that's an L that sticks. Bucks drafted Joe Alexander 8th overall. In 2008, Milwaukee used their top 10 pick on a raw, athletic forward out of West Virginia. Joe Alexander was seen as a high upside project, and the Bucks bet big. But that bet aged fast and badly. His rookie season was flat. In 59 games off the bench, Alexander averaged just 4.7 points and 1.9 rebounds. Not exactly what you want from a lottery pick. The worst part, the team didn't even wait around to see if he'd grow. Before his second season even began, Milwaukee declined his 3rd-year option. That's nearly unheard of for a top 10 pick. The message was clear. They were already done. Alexander became one of the rare lottery picks to be let go that early, and it cemented his place on every Bucks draft bust list. He later called the team dramatically irresponsible for pulling the plug that fast. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Most teams give their rookies more than one shot. Looking back, Milwaukee passed on several stronger options, including Brook Lopez, who was drafted just a few spots later and would eventually play a key role on their championship team. But at the time, they gambled on potential and pulled the plug in record time. Alexander's quick flameout became a warning for franchises drafting based on athletic ceiling without a plan for development. When you use a top pick and cut bait before year 2, that's not just a bust. It's a full-speed L with no brakes. Lee Mayberry had the lowest career win percentage ever, over nearly 500 NBA games. The teams he played for went 139 and 357. That's a 28 win percentage, the lowest in league history for any player with at least 400 games played. He suited up for the Milwaukee Bucks and later the Vancouver Grizzlies during some of their toughest years. It wasn't always about him. He was a steady presence, played his role, but the losing followed everywhere. 70% of the games he played in ended with the wrong scoreboard. To be clear, Mayberry wasn't a stat chaser or a locker room problem. He just happened to land in rough situations year after year. But records don't care about context. That 28% mark stuck, and now it's part of his legacy, whether he likes it or not. It's rare to see a player cross the 400 game mark and still finish with that kind of track record. Most guys with win rates that low don't last that long. Mayberry did. That makes it sting a little more. When you combine longevity with historic losing, it becomes one of the more quietly brutal L stats in NBA history. Not flashy, just relentlessly bad. Knicks signed Evan Fournier to a 4-year deal. In August 2021, New York brought in Fournier from the Celtics through a sign and trade deal. They also picked up 2 future second-round picks in the process. The contract, 4 years, with the total value reported between $73 and $78 million, depending on the source. The 4th year came with a team option. Spotrac listed it at $73 million, while other outlets cited $78. Either way, it was one of the larger free agent commitments of that offseason. The Knicks were banking on Fournier's scoring and shooting to boost their offense after a surprisingly strong season the year before. But that contract quickly became a frequent point of criticism. The numbers raised eyebrows almost immediately, not because Fournier wasn't a capable player, but because of how inconsistent the fit was from the start. The deal structure gave the team some flexibility by including the option on the final year, but the overall price tag limited other moves. This wasn't just a signing, it was a statement. New York had cap space and used a big chunk of it on Fournier. Whether it was $73 or $78 million, the commitment was massive, and as time went on, the deal's value became harder to justify. When a contract size is debated and criticized before year 2 even begins, that's not just risky, it's a front office L waiting to happen. Timberwolves Unfortunate record. The Minnesota Timberwolves have taken more L's than any other franchise in league history. As of the most recent numbers, they've won 1,196 regular season games and lost 1,680. That gives them a win percentage of .416, the lowest ever recorded for a current team in the league. No matter which source you check, the outcome's the same. They've lived at the bottom of the win column for decades. Even older stats confirm it. One widely referenced list once had them sitting at 980 wins and 1,496 losses, dragging their win percentage all the way down to .396. That's barely competitive. And it didn't go unnoticed. One report didn't just label them as bad, it went as far as calling them the worst franchise in all of American pro sports. That's across every league. They've only made it as far as the Western Conference Finals. Besides that, a whole lot of nothing, year after year. Before the last 2 years, they've been stuck watching other teams play deep into the spring. Fans have held out hope, especially during recent years, but that ugly all-time record hangs over everything. No matter how good things might look now, the numbers don't lie. Minnesota's long history of setbacks has been rough, and honestly, digging through these stats felt like sifting through a highlight reel of what not to do in professional basketball. John Monken, shooting struggles. John Mankin owns a record no player wants. He holds the lowest career field goal percentage in league history, based on the standard of at least 2,000 missed shots. His percentage, just 27.2. That's right. Over a 7-year career, he consistently missed more than 7 out of every 10 shots. He played from the late 1940s into the early 50s, bouncing around the league like a guy trying to find the exit in a funhouse. He suited up for teams like the Royals, Capitals, Bullets, Jets, Pistons, Blackhawks, Celtics, and Olympians. That's 8 different uniforms, and not one could help his shooting touch. Across 414 games, Monken averaged 10.5 minutes, 5.8 points, 2.9 rebounds, and just over 1 assist. But what stands out, and not in a good way, is that he managed to take over 3,500 shots and made barely over a quarter of them. Now sure, that era was not known for efficiency, but even players with reputations for rough shooting, like Joe Folks, still finished with a higher percentage. Folks landed at 30.2%, which was bad, but at least it broke 30. The thing is, Monken kept getting minutes, kept launching shots, and somehow never got better at it. It's not just a tough stat, it's a brutal legacy. When people talk about cold hands, this is what they mean. His percentage is locked in the record books for all the wrong reasons. Yinka Dare's assist drought. Yinka Dare might go down as one of the most infamous passers in league history, mostly because he just never did it. Drafted 14th overall in 1994 by the New Jersey Nets, expectations were sky high. But Dare's time on the floor quickly became known for one glaring stat: 0 assists. In the 1995 to 96 season, he played in 58 games and logged 626 minutes without recording a single assist. Not one. During that same stretch, he committed 72 turnovers. Let that sink in. He had more giveaways than some players have buckets in a season, and no assists to show for it. His first recorded assist didn't happen until the following year. That's right, after 77 games and about 770 minutes, he finally passed the ball to someone who actually scored. It took that long. Across 110 career games, Dare ended with just 4 assists and 96 turnovers. That's a turnover to assist ratio of 16-1. It's hard to even wrap your head around that. Plenty of players struggle to distribute, but Dare turned it into an art form. A center with size, playing real minutes, who nearly avoided assists like it was a rule. It's not just a rough stat, it's a part of basketball trivia that gets passed down, because nobody can believe it's real. Yinka's drought is a reminder that passing matters. Unless you were him, apparently. Jerome James's costly contract. Jerome James went from playoff surprise to financial regret almost overnight. In the 2005 playoffs with Seattle, he shocked everyone by averaging 12.5 points, 6.8 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks over 11 games. His run against Sacramento stood out most. 17 points and 9 boards per game had front offices buzzing. The New York Knicks bit hard that summer. They handed James a 5-year contract worth nearly $30 million. Thomas, running the show at the time, clearly believed that brief stretch meant big potential. But James didn't come close to delivering. With New York, he averaged just 2.5 points and under 2 rebounds in 90 games. His production cratered. He struggled with conditioning, missed training camp out of shape, and even got suspended in January 2006 for showing up unprepared. The promise that came with that contract vanished fast. By the end of his Knicks stint, he'd barely played. Only 4 games across the 2007 to 2009 seasons, while still collecting a massive paycheck. That's not just disappointing, it's franchise-level damage. The regret around the league became legend. Analysts, fans, and even Thomas himself called it one of the worst deals ever. James had one hot streak, and the Knicks paid as if it would last 5 years. It didn't. That contract's still remembered as a caution sign for every team chasing playoff hype over proven consistency. LaRue Martin, draft day blunder. In 1972, the Portland Trail Blazers held the top pick, and they used it on LaRue Martin. Ahead of them on the board, Bob McAdoo and Julius Erving. Yes, that Julius Erving. The selection quickly became one of the league's most criticized first overall picks. Martin's pro career didn't live up to the hype. Over 4 seasons, he averaged 5.3 points, 4.6 rebounds, and under 1 assist across 271 games. Meanwhile, McAdoo won Rookie of the Year, became a league MVP, took home multiple scoring titles, and finished with 2 championships. Irving turned into a basketball icon. The contrast is brutal. One franchise passed up 2 Hall of Fame legends and ended up with a player who quietly exited the league before reaching his prime. His numbers weren't just low for a top pick, they were among the worst for any number 1 selection in league history. But off the court, that's where Martin flipped the script. After basketball, he built a successful career at UPS, eventually becoming the Illinois District Public Affairs and Community Services Manager. He's spoken openly about life after the game, reminding everyone that sports aren't everything. While fans might see his name on lists of draft mistakes, Martin doesn't carry it like a burden. He's proud of the title, and prouder of what came next. Not every story is about stats. Sometimes it's about what you do after the buzzer sounds and the cameras stop rolling. Draymond Green. He's been ejected 21 times, the second most ever, just behind Rasheed Wallace's 25. On March 27, 2024, he got tossed only 4 minutes into a game against Orlando after arguing with the refs. By early 2025, Green had been suspended for at least 36 games. On November 14, 2023, he got 5 games for putting Rudy Gobert in a headlock. Then on December 12th, he got hit with a 12-game suspension for striking Nurkic in the face. He's racked up 171 technical fouls and 20 flagrant fouls, making him one of the league's all-time leaders in both. Back in the 2016 finals, he got suspended for Game 5 after a flagrant on LeBron James, and the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. In October 2022, Green punched Jordan Poole during practice, and Poole got traded the next year. In the 2023 playoffs, he stomped on Sabonis and earned a 1-game suspension. Green's lost around $4,100,000 in fines and salary, even with career averages of 8.7 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 5.6 assists. His antics always steal the spotlight. Meta World Peace. He was suspended 111 games across his career, one of the highest totals in NBA history. His most infamous moment came on November 19, 2004, during the Malice at the Palace. He charged into the stands and fought a fan, leading to an 86-game suspension, the longest ever for an on-court incident. That single suspension cost him $5 million. In January 2006, he was suspended 7 games for elbowing Ginobili in the face. In May 2012, he elbowed James Harden and got another 7-game suspension. He finished his career with 157 technical fouls and 28 flagrant fouls. He was ejected 13 times, including once in November 2002 for smashing a TV monitor after a game in Madison Square Garden. He lost over $7 million from fines and suspension. In 2003, he destroyed a $100,000 TV camera after a loss to the Knicks. He once asked for a month off to promote his rap album. So yeah, meta world peace. Kevin Garnett. He finished his career with 191 technical fouls, the most in NBA history at the time. In the 2003 season alone, his MVP year, he picked up 16 technicals, tied for the league lead. Garnett also got suspended for at least 7 games during his career. On April 6, 2010, he elbowed Quentin Richardson in the face and was suspended for Game 2 of the Celtics and Heat series. His trash talking is legendary, but it often crossed the line. In 2011, he allegedly called Charlie Villanueva a cancer patient. In 2008, he reportedly told Carmelo Anthony that his wife tasted like Honey Nut Cheerios. Garnett was ejected 11 times. including a punch thrown at Chris Webber in 2001. He lost over $1,500,000 in fines and salary. In 2010, he was fined $25,000 and lost $110,000 in salary for his suspension. Garnett had high-profile feuds, including one with Ray Allen after Allen left Boston in 2012. One of the best players ever regardless, though. Dennis Rodman. He's without a doubt one of the most infamous players in NBA history. On the court, Rodman was known for his physical defense and aggressive style of play. During his time with the Detroit Pistons, they earned the nickname Bad Boys because of how hard they played, and Rodman fit right in. He constantly clashed with opponents, picking up technical fouls and getting ejected from games more times than he probably cared to count. But what made him truly infamous went far beyond basketball. Off the court, Rodman was a magnet for controversy. He was always in the headlines for his high-profile relationships and unpredictable behavior. Rodman was arrested several times with charges that included public drunkenness, domestic disturbances, and driving under the influence. His appearance made him stand out even more. Brightly dyed hair, wild clothing choices, and a body covered in tattoos and piercings made sure nobody ever forgot him. Then there was his decision to skip practice during the 1997 to 1998 NBA Finals to appear in a professional wrestling event with Hulk Hogan. And who could ignore his surprising friendship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, which brought even more controversy. Ben Wallace, like Meta World Peace. One of the biggest moments tied to Wallace happened during the Malice at the Palace on November 19, 2004. But besides that, on September 24, 2011, he was arrested in Bloomfield Township, Michigan, for driving under the influence and carrying a concealed weapon. He ended up pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges and was sentenced to 1 year of probation. Then, on February 8, 2014, Wallace was involved in a hit-and-run incident in Richmond, Virginia. He pleaded guilty to leaving the scene of an accident and was sentenced to 1 year in jail, although all but 2 days were suspended. These moments have cemented Wallace's reputation as a fierce competitor who's faced plenty of personal challenges too. Dylan Brooks. Brooks led the league with 18 technical fouls during the 2022 to 2023 season while playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. That total triggered multiple suspensions, including one after taunting the Dallas Mavericks bench on March 20th, 2023. Brooks has been suspended at least 5 times in his career, including a 1-game suspension in February 2023 after striking Donovan Mitchell in the groin. He also fractured Gary Payton II's elbow with a flagrant foul, earning another suspension. Brooks has been ejected 8 times in 513 career games through March 2025. His April 22nd, 2023 ejection for hitting LeBron James in the groin added fuel to his villain reputation. He's forfeited around $750,000 in fines and suspensions, including $336,000 in 2023 alone. Brooks thrives on provoking superstars like LeBron James and Kyrie while collecting 14 career flagrant fouls. His antics, suspensions, and polarizing persona have solidified him as one of basketball's most controversial players today. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Grayson Allen. He's earned a reputation as one of the most infamous players in basketball, starting with his college days at Duke and continuing in the NBA. While at Duke from 2014 to 2018, Allen became known for multiple tripping incidents that sparked outrage. On February 8, 2016, he tripped Louisville's Ray Spalding, and just weeks later, tripped Florida State's Xavier Rathan Mays. Then in December of that same year, he tripped Elon Steven Santa Ana, leading to a 1-game suspension many thought was far too lenient. His aggressive reputation followed him to the NBA. On January 21st, 2022, while with the Milwaukee Bucks, Allen committed a flagrant 2 foul on Alex Caruso, fracturing Caruso's wrist and leading to a 1-game suspension. Allen has been ejected 5 times in his NBA career, including a July 2019 Summer League game where he picked up back-to-back flagrant fouls on Grant Williams. He's collected 8 flagrant fouls and over 1,700 personal fouls in his career. Despite averaging 11 points and over 40% from three-point range through 2025, Allen's reputation for dirty play remains. His aggressive style, suspensions, and fines, totaling around $300,000, keep him one of the league's most controversial players. Bill Laimbeer. He's considered one of the most infamous players in NBA history. mainly because of his aggressive and often controversial behavior during his time with the Detroit Pistons bad boys era. Laimbeer was notorious for physical altercations, especially during the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals. In Game 4, he committed a hard foul on Larry Bird, which led to Bird throwing the ball at his head and starting a scuffle. The next game, Robert Parrish retaliated by hitting Laimbeer multiple times. Though Parrish was not ejected, Laimbeer's reputation as one of the dirtiest players in NBA history only grew stronger. On November 11, 1988, he and Parrish were both ejected from another game after another heated confrontation. Off the court, Laimbeer made headlines again in 1991 when he led the Pistons' infamous walkout against the Chicago Bulls. After being swept, Laimbeer and several teammates left without shaking hands. A move widely viewed as disrespect following his playing career, Laimbeer became a successful WNBA coach, winning 3 championships with the Detroit Shock and earning Coach of the Year honors twice. Still, his NBA legacy remains tied to his rough play and polarizing actions, both on and off the court. Zaza Pachulia. He's one of the NBA's most infamous players, with a legacy built on controversy and physical play rather than stats. His most infamous moment came during the 2017 Western Conference Finals. In Game 1, Zaza slid under Kawhi Leonard on a jump shot, aggravating Leonard's ankle injury. The Spurs were up by 23 points when Leonard went out. They lost that game 113-111, and the Warriors swept the series. The NBA later created the Zaza rule to penalize reckless closeouts. A year later, Zaza fell on Russell Westbrook's knee during a Warriors-Thunder game. Westbrook accused him of doing it on purpose, and Paul George agreed, calling it a Zaza play. Zaza collected 121 technical fouls, 15 flagrant fouls, and 5 ejections across his career. He was suspended 6 games total. In Game 4 of the 2017 NBA Finals, he punched Shumpert in the groin but escaped with just a technical. Despite winning 2 championships, Zaza's career averages were just 6.8 points and 5.8 rebounds. His controversial plays earned him $600,000 in fines and a lasting reputation as one of the dirtiest players in league history. Kevin McHale. He's a Hall of Fame power forward, best known for helping the Boston Celtics win 3 championships, but his career wasn't without controversy. One of McHale's most infamous moments happened during Game 4 of the 1984 NBA Finals against the Los Angeles Lakers. As Kurt Rambis drove for a layup, McHale delivered a brutal clothesline foul that sent Rambis crashing to the floor. The hit escalated an already heated rivalry and is often credited with shifting the momentum of the series in Boston's favor. McHale's intensity wasn't limited to the court. During one game, he became so fed up with the heckling fan that he walked over and grabbed the man by his tie, a chaotic moment that's still talked about today. Years later, while working as a broadcaster in 2019, McHale found himself in hot water again during a live game between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. He was caught on a hot microphone making an insulting comment about an unidentified person. The remark was broadcast live, drawing plenty of criticism and sparking debates about professionalism. Despite his on-court greatness, these incidents have added a complicated layer to McHale's NBA legacy. Patrick Beverley. He's made a name for himself as one of the NBA's most infamous players, thanks to relentless defense, trash talk, and plenty of controversy. On May 2nd, 2024, during Game 6 of the Bucks-Pacers playoff series, Beverley threw a basketball twice at fans, hitting one woman in the head. The NBA suspended him 4 games without pay, costing him over $108,000. That same night, he refused to answer a reporter's questions because she didn't subscribe to his podcast. Beverley has been suspended 13 games in total, including a 3-game ban in 2022 for shoving DeAndre Ayton from behind. He's collected 141 technical fouls and 7 ejections during his career. In 2021, he shoved Chris Paul in the back during the Western Conference Finals. His physical style once left Russell Westbrook with a facial fracture in 2015. Beverley has lost more than $1.2 million from fines and suspensions. Despite 3 all-defensive team honors, his reputation as the league's biggest pest sticks. From taunting LeBron James with 2 small gestures to feuds with Luka and Chris Paul, Beverley's antics keep him one of basketball's most polarizing figures. Karl Malone. He's one of the greatest power forwards in NBA history, but his career and personal life are surrounded by controversy. On December 14, 1991, during a game between the Utah Jazz and Detroit Pistons, Malone delivered a vicious elbow to Isaiah Thomas's head. Thomas needed over 40 stitches, and Malone was suspended for 1 game and fined $10,000. His aggressive playing style led to him collecting 332 technical fouls, the most in NBA history. Off the court, things get even more complicated. In 1983, at 20 years old, Malone fathered a child with Gloria Bell, who was 13 at the time. A paternity lawsuit proved he was the father of Demetress Bell, though Malone denied responsibility for years. He also fathered twins with Benita Ford in 1980. When he was 17, he eventually settled the case and formed a relationship with the twins later in life. In 2004, Malone was accused of making inappropriate comments to Vanessa Bryant, the wife of Kobe Bryant. This accusation caused a serious rift between Malone and Kobe. Despite his on-court accomplishments, Malone's legacy remains clouded by these serious controversies. Chris Paul, he's one of the best point guards ever, but his career has plenty of infamous moments that have made him one of the most polarizing players in the league. Paul's been labeled a master of the dark arts, using sneaky tactics like flopping, tripping, and grabbing jerseys to frustrate opponents. In 2018, he yanked Steph Curry's jersey off the ball in the Western Conference Final, drawing plenty of heat. Then in 2022, he flopped against Jose Alvarado to seal a playoff win over the Pelicans, sparking boos and endless posts calling him the king of flops. Paul's piled up 162 technical fouls, putting him in the top 10 all time, and he's been suspended 5 games across 3 incidents, including the infamous 2-game suspension in 2018 for poking Rondo in the face. He's been ejected 8 times, often for losing his cool with refs. His feud with referee Scott Foster has become legendary, with Paul losing 19 straight playoff games officiated by him. Despite averaging over 17 points and 9 assists in his career, Paul's $1.5 million in fines and relentless antics have earned him a reputation as one of basketball's most controversial competitors. Gary Payton, he's remembered as one of the greatest defenders ever, but his career is also packed with moments that made him one of the NBA's most infamous figures. Nicknamed the Glove for his suffocating defense, Payton was just as famous for relentless trash talking. His non-stop banter rattled opponents and gave him a major psychological edge. It's even said his interactions with Allen Iverson helped spark Iverson's legendary practice rant. Off the court, Payton faced serious controversy. In 2015, he was accused of assaulting a woman during a trip to Seattle. Though he was later cleared by a jury, the allegations attracted plenty of media attention. Payton also made headlines with bizarre accusations against Shaquille O'Neal, claiming O'Neal took part in hazing rituals involving human waste. Shaq denied those claims, but the story added another strange twist to Payton's complicated legacy. While his 9 all-defensive first-team selections and Defensive Player of the Year award in 1996 speak to his greatness on the court, it's clear his trash talk, conflicts, and off-court controversies have helped make him one of basketball's most infamous names. Rasheed Wallace. In the 2000 to 2001 season, Wallace set an NBA record with 41 technical fouls while playing for the Portland Trail Blazers. That year, he was ejected 7 times and even threw a towel at a referee, leading to fines and a rule change, introducing automatic suspensions after 16 technicals. Across his career, Wallace was ejected 25 times, the most in league history. One of his most infamous moments came in 2003 when he confronted referee Tim Donaghy in a parking lot and was suspended 7 games, losing over $1 million in salary. Wallace totaled 317 career technical fouls and was fined over $4 million throughout his 16-year career. Even during his championship season with the Detroit Pistons in 2004, Wallace collected 13 technical fouls. Known for his catchphrase, "Ball don't lie," Wallace's outbursts often overshadowed his talent. He clashed with coaches and teammates, including a fight with Bonzi Wells. Despite career averages of over 14 points and nearly 7 rebounds, his reputation for volatility became just as memorable as his championship success. Kenyon Martin, known for physical play and trash talk, Martin admitted to grabbing opponents on the free throw line to gain an advantage. One of his most infamous moments came in 2004 when he mocked Alonzo Mourning's kidney disease during a heated argument while they were teammates on the New Jersey Nets. Martin later apologized, but it nearly escalated into a fight. In 2006, while with the Denver Nuggets, he was suspended indefinitely during the playoffs for conduct detrimental to the team after arguing with coach George Karl about playing time and refusing to return for the second half. His rocky relationship with Karl continued, with reports of them barely speaking. Martin also almost fought J.R. Smith, after an April Fool's prank went wrong. Off the court, he was involved in a public feud with Mark Cuban in 2009, after Cuban allegedly called him a thug. Cuban later apologized to Martin's mother. In 2012, a woman accused of stalking Martin was arrested after walking onto the court during a game. Martin's career was as intense and controversial as his on-court persona. Rick Mahorn. He's one of the most infamous enforcers in NBA history, playing a huge role in the Detroit Pistons' Bad Boys era. Nicknamed the baddest bad boy, Mahorn was known for his brutal physicality and unapologetic style. On January 16, 1988, he yanked Michael Jordan out of the air during a drive, starting a full-on brawl. Mahorn was suspended 1 game and fined $5,000. He finished that season averaging over 3 fouls a game, part of why the Pistons led the league in personal fouls. Mahorn was suspended at least 8 games in his career, including a 2-game suspension in 1990 for elbowing Patrick Ewing. He racked up 124 technical fouls and 11 ejections over his career. In 2008, as an assistant coach for the Detroit Shock, he was suspended 2 games for shoving Lisa Leslie during a WNBA brawl. Mahorn's physical playoff presence helped Detroit win the 1989 title, but his confrontational reputation followed him into retirement. Despite modest stats, his 3,433 personal fouls and his role as an enforcer make him one of basketball's most notorious tough guys, with a legacy defined as much by bruises as by championships. Dikembe Mutombo. He's a Hall of Famer, known for his legendary shot blocking and 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, but his career also comes with a fair share of controversy. Mutombo's 7'2" frame and sharp elbows made him one of the league's most physical players. In 1997, he caught Michael Jordan with an elbow under the basket, leading Jordan to call it a cheap shot. 2 years later, he elbowed Marcus Camby in the face during a playoff game, earning a flagrant foul and a $10,000 fine. Mutombo was also famous for his finger wag celebration after blocks, which earned him 148 technical fouls over his career. The NBA even considered banning the gesture at one point. He was suspended 5 games in total, including 2 games in 1999 for shoving Charles Oakley. Mutombo was ejected 9 times, including once for shoving referee Joey Crawford. Despite his humanitarian efforts off the court, Mutombo developed a reputation as overly physical, with over 3,900 personal fouls. But at the same time, also maybe the greatest defender of all time, John Stockton. He's widely considered one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, but plenty of players remember him just as much for being one of the dirtiest. In a 1997 Sports Illustrated poll, Stockton was voted the 2nd dirtiest player in the league, finishing just behind Dennis Rodman. Steve Kerr once called him a dirty bastard, and Vernon Maxwell flat out said Stockton was one of the dirtiest players ever. At 6'1", Stockton wasn't the biggest guy on the court, but he made up for it with physical screens that often led with elbows and shoulders. Opponents complained he constantly grabbed jerseys, tugged on arms, and threw in hip checks to slow them down, moves that often flew under the radar. He was also known for relentless trash talk and mind games that drove players crazy. Some argue Stockton's style was just part of playing hard in a physical era, but others say he crossed the line. Despite his reputation, he still ended his career as the all-time leader in assists and steals. But for many, Stockton's toughness and sneaky tactics made him just as infamous as he was great. Stephen Jackson. As part of Malice at the Palace, he was suspended 30 games without pay, losing $1.7 million, and later pled guilty to misdemeanor assault. In 2006, Jackson fired 5 shots outside an Indianapolis strip club after a fight, earning a 7-game suspension and community service. Over his career, Jackson racked up 171 technical fouls and 17 ejections, often for arguing calls or clashing with coaches. He feuded publicly with Don Nelson in 2009, refused to play, and was suspended 2 games. Despite helping the Spurs win the 2003 title, his temper regularly got in the way. Jackson lost over $3.5 million to fines and suspension. Even after retirement, he stayed unapologetic, saying he'd defend his teammates again if needed. Latrell Sprewell. His most infamous moment came on December 1st, 1997, when he attacked Golden State Warriors head coach P.J. Carlesimo during practice. Sprewell choked Carlesimo for over 10 seconds, left the gym, then returned and punched him. That led to his contract being terminated and a 68-game suspension, one of the longest in NBA history. 2 years earlier, Sprewell had a physical altercation with teammate Jerome Kersey. After the fight, Spruill reportedly came back with a 2x4 and threatened to return with a gun. While serving his suspension in 1998, he was involved in a car accident and charged with reckless driving, resulting in 3 months of house arrest. In 2004, Spruill rejected a $21.4 million contract extension from the Minnesota Timberwolves, saying, "I have a family to feed." He never played another NBA game and later faced serious financial trouble, including losing his home and yacht. He was also suspended 1 game for yelling obscene comments at a female fan. Charles Oakley. He's one of the most infamous enforcers in NBA history, known for his physical play and fearless confrontations. On October 25, 1996, Oakley got into a fight with Charles Barkley during a preseason game. After committing a flagrant foul, he sparked a scuffle that led to both players being ejected. Oakley was suspended 2 games and fined $11,000. In the 1998 Eastern Conference semifinals, he was at the center of a bench-clearing brawl in Game 4 against the Miami Heat, showing again that he was always ready to defend his team physically. Oakley's role as an enforcer earned him a reputation as one of the toughest, and in the eyes of some players, dirtiest guys in the league. Off the court, Oakley stayed just as confrontational. In 2017, he was arrested at Madison Square Garden after a fight with security near Knicks owner James Dolan. He later filed a lawsuit against Dolan and MSG, which is still ongoing. Court documents in 2025 even claimed Oakley's lawyer edited his autobiography to push a false story about the incident. Oakley's legacy is a mix of fearless defense, physical play, and headline-grabbing controversy. Matt Barnes. He's always been a name that sparks controversy. Barnes built his reputation on the court by never backing down from anyone. He got tossed from a game after shoving Serge Ibaka, then went on social media and picked up a fine of $25,000. During the playoffs, he was fined $50,000 for making comments toward James Harden's mother, though he did apologize later. Things got heated against Milwaukee when Barnes tried to storm their locker room and ended up with a 1-game suspension. Off the court, it kept spiraling. He fought Derek Fisher at his ex-wife's house, leading to a 2-game suspension and a $35,000 fine. He was even investigated after a nightclub incident in New York. Then in 2024, he confronted a high school broadcaster, costing him his analyst job. Barnes stayed unapologetically aggressive, making him unforgettable in NBA history. Bruce Bowen. He's one of the NBA's most infamous defenders, not just for locking down opponents, but for a style that many called dirty. Known for his closeouts, Bowen often stepped into shooters' landing space, a move that led to injuries and a lot of controversy. Vince Carter repeatedly accused Bowen of stepping under him on jump shots, causing heated exchanges. Steve Francis injured his ankle landing on Bowen's foot, and Stoudemire had a similar complaint after Bowen stepped on his foot during a game. Things got physical with Ray Allen in 2006 when Bowen kicked him in the back while fighting through a screen. Allen flat out called him a dirty player. Another lowlight was Bowen jump kicking Wally Szczerbiak in the face during a game, a move many believed was intentional. The NBA eventually created new rules to protect shooters, in part because of Bowen's tactics. Despite the controversy, Bowen made 8 straight NBA All-Defensive teams and won 3 titles with the Spurs. Still, his legacy is defined by a constant debate. Was he just playing tough defense or crossing the line into dangerous territory? For many players, Bruce Bowen was the opponent you hated to face. Reggie Miller. He's forever linked to some of the league's wildest moments. Miller's rivalry with the New York Knicks lit up the 90s like few others. He went off for 39 points in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, sparking heated exchanges with Spike Lee right on the sidelines. The next year, he pulled off one of the wildest finishes ever, dropping 8 points in under 9 seconds to shock the Knicks and leave Madison Square Garden stunned. Miller never shied away from trash talk either. He got into it with Michael Jordan early on, only to learn fast that poking the bear had consequences. Against Scottie Pippen, he whispered at the free throw lines just to throw him off. Even in retirement, controversy followed him. As a broadcaster, he's faced heat for his on-air comments, keeping him right in the spotlight. Miller's legacy is unforgettable, no matter how you see it. Isaiah Thomas. He's one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, but his legacy comes with controversy. As the leader of the Detroit Pistons Bad Boys, Thomas helped deliver back-to-back championships in 1989 and 1990. Under his leadership, the Pistons built a reputation for physical, aggressive play that pushed the boundaries of sportsmanship. One reporter labeled them thugs, and Thomas later reflected on how those perceptions stuck with him. One of the most infamous moments came in 1991 when the Pistons were swept by the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. Thomas, along with teammates, walked off the court without shaking hands. That move was blasted as unsportsmanlike and stained his reputation for years. In 2020, he apologized to the city of Detroit, admitting it hurt how people viewed the team. Another major controversy surrounds his exclusion from the 1992 Dream Team. Many believe his tense relationship with Michael Jordan played a role, though that's still debated. Even earlier in his career, his costly turnover in Game 5 of the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals against Boston fueled criticism. Despite all that, Thomas's fierce competitiveness and skill made him an icon and one of the NBA's most infamous leaders. Marcus Morris. He's one of the most infamous enforcers in modern NBA history. Known for his physical play and fiery temper, Morris has built a reputation for being both a tough defender and a player willing to cross the line. One of his most notorious moments came in 2020 during the playoffs, when he stepped on Luka's injured ankle in Game 4 and then struck Doncic in the head with a flagrant foul in Game 5, or when he smashed Justin Anderson in the head with the ball. These incidents led to his ejection, a fine of $35,000, and accusations of being a dirty player. Over his career, Morris has been suspended at least 4 times, missing 6 games for aggressive acts, including shoving a referee in 2022. He has racked up over 150 technical fouls and 11 ejections, often for clashes with opponents like Nikola Jokic, Jay Crowder, and Jonas Valanciunas. Despite averaging 12 points and nearly 5 rebounds per game, his frequent altercations and over $1 million in fines and lost salary overshadow his contributions. Markieff Morris. What about the brother? Drafted in 2011, he became a key role player and won a championship with the Lakers in 2020. But it's his reputation for dirty plays and on-court incidents that define him. On November 8, 2021, he delivered a cheap shot to Nikola Jokic, shoving him in the ribs during a game. Jokic responded with a brutal hit from behind that left Morris with a neck injury, causing him to miss 58 games. Morris was fined $50,000 for the incident, but called Jokic soft afterward, igniting a public feud. Over his career, Markieff has been suspended at least 4 times, missing 5 games, and he's racked up 147 technical fouls and 9 ejections across 815 games. He's lost over $900,000 due to fines and suspensions. His playoff antics, including flagrant fouls on players like Jay Crowder and Klay Thompson, have only fueled his image as an instigator. Even with career averages of 10 points, 5 rebounds, and a solid 3-point shot, Markieff Morris is best remembered as a modern enforcer whose aggressive style often crossed the line. Robert Horry. He's one of the most clutch performers in NBA history, with 7 championships and countless game-winning shots. But his career wasn't without controversy. Known as Big Shot Rob, Horry built a reputation not only for his timely baskets, but also for his physical and sometimes dirty play, especially in the postseason. One of his most infamous moments came on May 14, 2007, when he delivered a vicious hip check to Steve Nash during Game 4 of the Western Conference semifinals. Nash flew into the scorer's table, igniting a scuffle that resulted in Stoudemire and Boris Diaw leaving the bench area, leading to their suspensions. Horry was suspended 2 games and fined, but many believe his actions shifted the momentum of the series. Years earlier, in 1997, while playing for the Phoenix Suns, Horry threw a towel at coach Danny Ainge during a sideline argument, resulting in a 2-game suspension and a trade to the Lakers. In 2008, during a playoff series against the New Orleans Hornets, Horry set a hard screen on David West, who was nursing a back injury, drawing criticism for targeting a vulnerable player. Throughout his career, Horry was seen as a player willing to do the dirty work, often delivering hard fouls and playing physical defense in high-stakes moments. Despite the controversy, his legacy is defined by his ability to hit big shots when it mattered most, earning him 7 NBA titles and the respect of champions, even as his tactics raised eyebrows along the way. Kelly Olynyk. He's a versatile big man with soft shooting touch and respectable numbers, but he's also built a sneaky reputation as one of the NBA's dirtiest players. Despite his laid-back Canadian image, Olynyk's physicality has sparked controversy and resentment from opponents throughout his career. His most infamous moment came on April 26, 2015, when he yanked Kevin Love's arm during Game 4 of the Celtics-Cavaliers series dislocating Love's shoulder and ending his postseason. Olynyk was suspended 1 game and fined $25,000, but Love called it Bush League, and LeBron James declared it not a basketball play. That incident branded Olynyk with a dirty label he's never quite shaken. Over his career, he's been suspended twice, totaling 2 games, and fined more than $100,000 for flagrant fouls and reckless play, including an elbow to Anthony Davis' head in 2018. He's racked up 78 technical fouls and been ejected 4 times, including for a flagrant 2 elbow to Terry Rozier in 2017. His playoff physicality is just as notorious, with 5 technicals in 58 games and moments like his hard screen that dazed Bradley Beal in 2017. Olynyk's monetary penalties total over $400,000, factoring in fines and salary losses. Public perception hasn't been kind. Kevin Durant once called him a player who catches you off guard, while Kevin Love's "not a basketball play" comment still echoes. Despite solid career averages of 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists per game, his 2012 personal fouls and reputation for underhanded tactics often overshadow his contributions. Yao Ming. The hype around him wasn't normal, it was global. Born in Shanghai in 1980 to 2 former professional players, he was practically designed for basketball. By age 9, he was playing. By 13, he was with the Shanghai Sharks junior team, and by 2002, he'd led them to a championship while putting up absurd numbers in the final. He'd already broken his foot twice before even reaching the league, which quietly lowered his explosiveness. Still, expectations kept climbing. China wanted a hero. The league wanted a gateway to Asia. Commentators predicted failure, yet he went first overall in 2002 without playing United States college basketball. Once he arrived, the production was real. In his first 3 seasons, he barely missed a game. He earned all rookie honors, multiple all-star selections, and even finished 14th in most valuable player voting by year 2. From ages 25 to 27, he averaged 23 points and 10 rebounds while anchoring the defense. Advanced numbers loved him too. Efficiency, win shares, impact metrics, they all backed it up. That's what makes it confusing. The injuries never stopped. Feet, ankles, knees. Surgery stacked up. He missed 250 games in his final 6 seasons and even sat out an entire year. Somehow, he was still voted an all-star during seasons he barely played. He retired in 2011 at just 30, after only 486 games without a title. Hall of Fame talent, global icon, and a career that always felt unfinished. Chris Paul, drafted 4th overall in 2005. He didn't ease into the league, he grabbed it. As a rookie, he averaged 16.1 points, 7.8 assists, and led all rookies in points, assists, steals, and double-double. He even led the entire league in total steals with 175. Rookie of the Year was basically a formality, yet the team went 38 and 44, then 39 and 43. Strong numbers, no playoffs. That pattern started early. By 2008, he was 2nd in most valuable player voting, leading the league with 11.6 assists and 2.7 steals. They won 56 and 26. It felt like the breakthrough. Instead, the postseason ended short. The next season, he nearly averaged 23 and 11, set a record with 108 straight games with a steal, and still the playoff run fizzled. Injuries crept in. Management tension followed. Production stayed elite. Stability didn't. The trade saga in 2011 turned chaotic when a deal was voided. He landed with the Clippers, stacking all-star nods and leading the league in assists multiple times. They posted franchise records like 57 and 25, but conference finals stayed out of reach year after year. Houston brought 65 and 17 and a trip to the conference finals. Then, a hamstring injury shifted everything. Phoenix delivered a finals appearance and a 2-0 lead that vanished. Milestones piled up, championships didn't. That's the confusion. Karl Malone, drafted 13th overall in 1985, he walked into the National Basketball Association and stayed there forever. 19 seasons, 18 in Utah, and he started almost every night. He averaged 25 points and about 10 rebounds for his career, hit over 51% from the field, and lived at the free throw line, finishing with the most free throws made and attempted. 17 straight seasons above 20 points per game isn't normal. It's relentless. That's why the ringless ending feels so strange. Utah was a yearly playoff team with him, and they reached the finals twice in the late 1990s, but both runs ended without a title. Near the end, he joined the Los Angeles Lakers for one last push, got back to the finals again, and still came up short. 3 finals trips, 0 championships, and a record number of playoff games for a player who never got the trophy. The durability story adds another twist. For his first 18 seasons, he almost never missed games, putting up huge minutes and steady production. Then around age 40, a major knee injury hit, and the decline arrived quickly. After decades of being available, the last chapter became the one time his body didn't cooperate. The awards list is enormous. 2 most valuable player seasons, 14 all-star selections, a long streak of first-team honors, elite, advanced numbers, Olympic gold medals, and a Hall of Fame induction. Yet his legacy talk doesn't stay locked on points and rebounds. Off-court controversies have followed him, reshaping how many people frame the career even today, for sure. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Gilbert Arenas, picked 31st overall in 2001, he arrived in Golden State as a second-round gamble and instantly looked like more than that. As a rookie, he started 30 games, put up double-digit scoring, and even snagged Rookie of the Month late in the year while the team sank near the bottom. Then the jump came fast. In year 2, he started every game, climbed to 18.3 points and 6.3 assists, won Most Improved Player, and still watched another losing season. Washington turned the confusion up. A big contract followed. The nickname Agent Zero stuck, and the scoring exploded into the mid and high 20s with huge minutes. He became a 3-time All-Star, made all NBA teams, and had playoff moments where the production stayed loud, even when the results didn't last long. The catch was always the chaos around the edges. Turnovers were high, injuries started stacking, and a torn knee ligament in spring 2007 flipped the whole timeline. After that, seasons became stop and start. Knee surgeries wiped out almost entire years, and when he finally returned, the rhythm never fully reset. Then the off-court headline hit in late 2009, leading to a long league suspension and legal consequences. Endorsements disappeared, and the team moved toward a rebuild. A trade to Orlando changed the role into shorter minutes and rough efficiency. Then Memphis became a brief bench stop. He finished with over 20 points per game for his career, but the arc feels like a rocket that kept getting redirected off. George Muresan, 7'7", tied as the tallest player ever, and somehow he wasn't just a walking headline. Drafted by Washington in the second round in 1993, he came in with real touch, real timing, and a simple plan: finish everything near the rim. That part worked. He shot 57.3% for his career, one of the best marks ever for a high-volume big, and he used that massive reach to swat shots without chasing highlights. The confusing part is how quickly it all clicked, then how fast it vanished. As a rookie, he was mostly a role player, but by his second season, he was starting and putting up double-digit scoring with strong rebounding and over 1.5 blocks a night. Then the peak hit in 1996. He started every game, averaged 14.5 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks. Led the league in field goal percentage and won Most Improved Player. That's not a novelty season. That's a legit center playing winning basketball. He followed it by leading the league in field goal percentage again the next year and helping Washington reach the playoff. Everything looked set for a long, weird, awesome run. Instead, the body couldn't keep up. Foot, ankle, and back problems started piling up, and he lost an entire season, right when momentum mattered most. When he returned, it was brief and quiet, including a single game in a shortened year with New Jersey and then a small bench role the next season, 6 seasons, 307 games, and retirement at 29. A Most Improved Player winner who became a what-if, mostly because the frame that made him unforgettable also made staying healthy almost impossible. Penny Hardaway, drafted 3rd overall in 1993 and flipped to Orlando on draft night, he walked in as a 6'7" point guard who looked like the future. As a rookie, he put up 16 points, 6.6 assists, and over 2 steals a game. By year 2, he jumped to 20.9 points, made first-team All-NBA, finished 4th in Most Valuable Player voting, and helped push the Magic to the finals. The next season, he raised it again to 21.7 points, finished 3rd in Most Valuable Player voting, and grabbed another first-team nod. Before turning 26, he had 2 first-team honors, 3 straight All-Star selections, and an Olympic gold medal. That's superstar trajectory. Then, the knee started whispering, and eventually shouting. A left knee issue in 1996 led to surgery. More damage followed in 1997 and 1998, including cartilage removal and constant pain management. He tried to carry the team after Shaq left, but the burst was fading. By the lockout season, he was still playing heavy minutes, yet the explosiveness was clearly slipping. The trade to Phoenix felt like a reset. Instead, 2 microfracture surgeries in 2000 crushed that hope. He played 4 games the next season. When he returned for a full year, the numbers were modest, 10 to 12 points. Solid playmaking, but no longer a franchise force. Later stops in New York and Miami showed brief flash, mostly as a role player fighting arthritis. 14 seasons, 1 finals trip, no ring. The peak screamed generation. The body answered differently. That's why it still feels unfinished. Victor Oladipo, drafted 2nd overall in 2013. He entered the league with explosive hops, defensive bite, and real upside. His rookie year in Orlando showed flashes with 13.8 points and over 4 assists per game, earning all rookie honors. The next season, he jumped to 17.9 points, but the efficiency and team success wavered. A trade to Oklahoma City trimmed his role, and for a moment, it felt like he might settle into being just another talented guard searching for consistency. Then Indiana happened. In 2017 and 18, he exploded into a two-way force. He averaged 23.1 points, led the league in steals at 2.4 per game, made the All-Star team, earned Most Improved Player, landed on an All-NBA team, and locked down a spot on the All-Defensive First Team. At 25, he looked like a franchise cornerstone, and then everything shifted. In January 2019, he ruptured his right quadriceps tendon. That injury wiped out the rest of that season and the entire next one. When he returned, the burst wasn't the same. Scoring dipped, efficiency fell under 40% from the field in later stretches, and more setbacks followed, including another quad procedure and a torn left patellar tendon in 2023. After that, the career turned into short stints, trades, and limited roles. From borderline superstar to rotational guard in just a few years. His prime lasted barely 2 seasons, yet the talent was obvious. That contrast is why the story feels unfinished. Grant Hill, drafted 3rd overall in 1994, he stepped into Detroit, looking like the future of the league. As a rookie, he averaged 19.9 points, over 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and nearly 2 steals, sharing Rookie of the Year honors and leading All-Star voting in the East. Over his first 6 seasons, he hovered around 21 to 26 points per game, stuffed the stat sheet with rebounds and assists, earned multiple All-NBA selections. By 2000, he was 3rd in the league in scoring at 25.8 per game. Through 6 years, his totals put him alongside names like LeBron, Bird, and Oscar in early career production. That's elite company. Then the ankle changed everything. A sprain late in 2000 was played through in the playoffs, and the damage worsened. He signed a massive deal with Orlando, but surgeries followed, and seasons disappeared. He played 4 games in his first year there, missed the entire next season, returned briefly, then suffered complications including a life-threatening infection after surgery. At one point, amputation was discussed. From Iron Man to uncertainty in just a few years. He did fight back. In 2005, he made another All-Star team. Later in Phoenix, he reinvented himself as a steady veteran, playing over 80 games in multiple seasons and helping reach a conference final. The numbers were modest compared to Detroit, but the professionalism stayed. 19 seasons, Hall of Fame resume, no championship. The first half screamed superstar. The second half whispered survival. That split is why his story feels so dramatic. Andre Drummond, drafted 9th overall in 2012. He quickly became a rebounding machine in Detroit. By his 4th season, he was averaging 16.9 points and 14.8 rebounds, earning an All-Star nod and All-NBA 3rd team honors. Over the next few years, he led the league in rebounds 4 times, routinely clearing 15 boards a night and stacking double-doubles like clockwork. At his peak, he hovered around 17 points and 15 rebounds, shot over 50% from the field, and signed a 5-year, $130 million extension that made him one of the highest paid centers in the league. Here's where it gets tricky. Despite the numbers, the impact debate never stopped. His free throw percentage sat under 50% for his career, making him a target late in games. Offensively, he lived around the rim, rarely spaced the floor, and didn't offer much playmaking. Defensively, he blocked shots, but the modern game exposed his limitations guarding in space. The stats were huge, yet team success stayed modest. After Detroit, the carousel began. Cleveland, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Chicago, then back to Philadelphia. 6 teams in 14 seasons. His role shifted from franchise centerpiece to dependable backup. In his early 30s, he's still pulling down close to 9 rebounds in under 20 minutes, often filling in with strong double-digit board nights when starters rest. 4 rebounding titles, over 11,000 career rebound, and multiple all-star appearances. Still, he's viewed as both elite and replaceable, dominant in one category, questioned in the bigger picture. That contrast defines his career. Shawn Marion, drafted 9th overall in 1999. He never looked like a traditional star, yet his production kept screaming impact. As a second-year player, he averaged 17.3 points and nearly 10 rebounds. By year 3, he was at 19.1 and almost 10 again, adding steals and blocks at elite rates for a wing. Then came the peak. In 2003, he posted 21.8 points, 11.8 rebounds, 2 steals, and nearly 2 blocks per game. A few seasons later, he repeated that 21 and 11 line while shooting over 52% from the field. He made 4 All-Star teams and 2 All-NBA third team, yet never cracked the defensive teams despite guarding everyone from point guards to centers. That's the puzzle. He filled every column without dominating headline. In Phoenix, he thrived in a fast offense, running the floor, cutting, defending, rebounding. He was the connective tissue next to flashier names, not the marketing centerpiece. His jumper looked unconventional, his personality low-key, and he rarely campaigned for attention. Still, he became the only player ever to rank top 20 in scoring, rebounding, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, and minutes in a single season. Mid-career trades to Miami and Toronto cooled the spotlight. Then in Dallas, he shifted into veteran glue mode. During the 2011 title run, he averaged around 12 points and 7 rebounds, defended multiple positions, and did whatever was needed while another star handled the spotlight. 16 seasons, over 17,000 points, over 10,000 rebounds, nearly 1,800 steals, and a championship ring. Not flashy, not loud, just relentlessly productive. That quiet dominance is why his career feels both confusing and wildly underrated. Tracy McGrady, drafted 9th overall, straight out of high school in 1997, he began quietly in Toronto behind another young star. By his 3rd season, he was at 15.4 points per game, hinting at more. Then Orlando handed him the keys, and the explosion came fast. In 2001, he jumped to 26.8 points, won Most Improved Player, and made All-NBA. Over the next few seasons, he became a scoring champion twice, topping out at 32.1 per game. At 6'8", with guard skills, he could rise over defenders, glide in transition, pass, block shots, and close games with a smooth pull-up. For a stretch, he sat firmly in the league's top tier. The team results never matched the talent. Orlando kept exiting in the first round. Houston paired him with Yao Ming, and the numbers stayed strong, mid-20s, scoring with playmaking, but playoff series kept slipping away. He produced iconic moments, yet sustained postseason success never arrived. Then the body gave out. Back spasms, knee soreness, shoulder problems, and eventually, microfracture surgery in 2009 changed everything. The lift disappeared. The first step slowed. Seasons shrank from 70-plus games to scattered appearances. After 30, he bounced from team to team in reduced roles, no longer the focal point. By age 33, his effective prime was over. 2 scoring titles, 7 All-Star selections, multiple All-NBA honors, and a Hall of Fame plaque. Still, no championship and no playoff series wins as the main star. The peak was breathtaking. The fall was sudden. That contrast defines the mystery. Ty Lawson, drafted 18th overall in 2009 and flipped to Denver on draft night, he arrived with blazing speed and a championship pedigree from North Carolina. Early on, he backed up Chauncey Billups, flashing efficiency and range, shooting over 40% from 3 as a rookie. By his 3rd season, he was a full-time starter, averaging 16.4 points and 6.6 assists. A year later, he climbed to 8.8 assists per game, and in 2015, he led the entire league with 9.6 assists. At 5'11", he controlled tempo, lived in the paint off quick bursts, and pushed playoff teams into the second round. Physically, nothing dramatic collapsed. He regularly played 70-plus games, avoided major knee or ankle disasters, and stayed productive in his mid-20s. The shift came off the court. Multiple alcohol-related driving arrests, probation violations, and public incidents began stacking up. Teams grew wary, trust eroded, conditioning slipped during his Houston stint, his minutes dropped, and he was waived before the season ended. After that, the resume turned into short stops. Indiana for a brief cameo, Sacramento in a bench role with decent numbers, Washington for 18 games before another release. By age 29, the starting point guard, who once led the league in assists, was out of the NBA. No catastrophic injury, no sudden loss of athleticism, just decisions that overshadowed talent. His prime suggested long-term stability and maybe even all-star consideration. Instead, the arc became a cautionary tale about how quickly momentum can disappear when off-court issues outweigh on-court production. Sharif Abdur-Rahim, drafted 3rd overall in 1996, he entered the league with polished footwork, a soft mid-range touch, and the kind of versatility teams crave. As a rookie in Vancouver, he averaged 18.7 points. By year 4, he was at 23 points and 10 rebounds per game. Over 12 seasons, he put up 18.1 points and 7.5 rebounds for his career, scored over 15,000 points, and made an all-star team in 2002. Smooth, efficient, steady. That part never really wavered. The confusion comes from where it all happened. Vancouver was an expansion team, stuck in constant rebuilding. Atlanta followed with more losing seasons. Night after night, he delivered 20 and 8, yet the standings barely moved. By the time he finally reached the eye, playoffs with Sacramento in 2006, he had played 744 regular season games without a single postseason appearance. That streak ended with just 6 playoff games and a first-round exit. One series. That's it. He wasn't inefficient or reckless. He shot nearly 47% from the field and over 80% from the line for his career. Teammates respected his skill set. Still, the narrative stuck. Productive forward, empty wins column. Then the knee intervened. Scar tissue and lingering right knee issues surfaced in the mid-2000s. Surgeries followed. After playing only 6 games in his final season, he retired at 31. 12 seasons of consistency, almost no team success, and an early exit while still capable. The numbers say high-level scorer. The resume says almost no postseason impact. That tension defines his career. Andrew Bynum, drafted 10th overall in 2005 straight out of high school. He debuted at 17 years old, one of the youngest players ever. Early seasons were developmental, but the tools were obvious. 7 feet tall, wide frame, soft hands, advanced post footwork, and natural shot blocking instincts. By year 3, he was averaging 13 points on over 63% shooting before a knee injury cut that season short. Once healthy, he became a core piece of back-to-back championships in 2009 and 2010. He wasn't the headline star, but he anchored the paint, rebounded, and finished efficiently. Then came the peak. In 2012, he averaged 18.7 points and 11.8 rebounds, made his first All-Star team, and earned All-NBA second-team honors at just 24 years old. He looked like a franchise center entering his prime. Then everything unraveled. Chronic knee problems that began as early as 2008 never fully disappeared. Dislocations, bone bruises, torn cartilage, swelling. After being traded to Philadelphia in a blockbuster deal, he never played a single game there. Reports of a bowling-related setback only deepened the confusion. Multiple surgeries followed. Conditioning slipped. Questions about motivation grew louder. A brief stint in Cleveland showed flashes, but the explosiveness was gone. Short stops in Chicago and Indiana ended quickly as his knees swelled again. By age 26, he was effectively out of the league. 2 championships, 1 All-Star appearance, elite production at his peak, and then a sudden vanishing act. Few modern centers have had such a dramatic rise and fall so early. Monte Ellis, 2nd round pick, straight out of high school, 40th overall in 2005. No college hype machine, no lottery pedigree, just speed, blinding, blur on fast-forward speed. Within 2 seasons, he was averaging 16.5 a night and helped power the We Believe Golden State upset. Then came 20-point seasons, a Most Improved Player award, and that absurd 2007 year, 20.2 per game on over 53% shooting. For a 6'3" guard living in the mid-range, that was wild efficiency. And yet, no all-star games. Not one. In an era of Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, Chris Paul, and Darren Williams, Ellis was the awkward extra chair at the table. High usage, middling true shooting around 52% for his career, questionable shot selection, and defense that coaches describe politely as inconsistent, which is basketball code for please rotate. Then there was Moped Gate. In 2008, he shredded his ankle in what was initially described as a basketball injury, except it was a moped accident, contract clause violation, fine, public embarrassment, because nothing says franchise cornerstone like hiding Vespa-related trauma. The Steph Curry tension added another layer. Ellis openly said they couldn't coexist. The Warriors chose Curry. History laughs. He still scored in Milwaukee and Dallas, nearly 19 per game at his Mavericks peak. But the league shifted. Efficiency mattered more. Spacing mattered more. Defense definitely mattered more. By age 31, he was waived in Indiana and effectively done. 14,000 plus points. 5 20-plus seasons. 0 All-Stars. Explosive talent. Minimal legacy footprint. Ellis had it all, just not, apparently, timing. Mike Conley Jr., 4th overall pick in 2007. Steady from day one and somehow still underrated 18 years later. His early years in Memphis were quiet but methodical. 10 to 13 points, 5 to 6 assists. Strong three-point percentages. Low turnovers. Nothing viral, nothing loud, just adult basketball. By the grit and grind era, he was the stabilizer. Elite point of attack defender, clutch shooter, calm, late game decision maker. In 2013, he led Memphis to the Western Conference Final. No All-Star nod. Of course not. The Western guard line was basically a Marvel movie cast. His peak was subtle, 20.5 per game in 2017. Career high 21.1 at age 31 in 2019. 40% from 3 in multiple seasons. Assist to turnover ratios that coaches dream about. 1 All-Star selection finally in 2021 at age 33. That's either persistence or the league apologizing retroactively. In Utah, he adapted. Less ball dominance, more spacing. In Minnesota, he became the wise uncle of a contender, knocking down 41% from 3 in his late 30s, while defending guards half his age. Not flashy, just functional. No scandals, no ego drama, no playoff meltdowns pinned solely on him. Just competence stretched across nearly 2 decades, over 16,000 points, nearly 7,000 assists, 1 All-Star appearance, countless. We should appreciate him more, article. Mike Conley didn't. Chase, superstardom. He quietly built a career that outlasted most of the louder names. Michael Beasley, the mixtape legend, the consensus #1 high school recruit, the Kansas State one and done who casually averaged 26 and 12 like he was bored with gravity. Drafted 2nd overall in 2008 behind Derrick Rose, and for about 5 minutes, people debated whether Miami got the better score. Then the league happened. As a rookie with the Miami Heat, he put up nearly 14 points per game and made the all-rookie first team. By year 3 in Minnesota, he was averaging 19.2 per night. The talent was obvious. Ambidextrous touch, jab-step artistry, soft, mid-range, deep bag before bag was a thing. When locked in, he could score on anyone. Per 36 minutes, he basically lived at 15, plus across his career. And yet, 609 games, 7 teams, 0 All-Star appearances, suspensions, marijuana violation, a 25-game ban in Phoenix, toxic whispers, effort question, defense that often felt optional. Coaches never quite trusted him, and contenders rarely built around him. He'd disappear, then reappear. Drop 30 in China, win CBA foreign MVP. Come back and give the Knicks 13 a night off the bench on 52% shooting, then vanish again. Lakers stint, 10 games. Nets Bobo cameo, gone. 7,568 NBA points. Efficient career field goal percentage. Endless what-if conversations. He wasn't talent deficient. That's what makes it sting. In interviews, he's talked about mental health, family financial betrayal, feeling misunderstood. The bust label stuck because of context, not skill. Michael Beasley is the rare case where both sides are right. Unreal scorer, massive underachiever, a career that always felt like it was about to turn the corner, and never quite did. Sean Livingston, a 6'7" point guard from Peoria, Illinois, who jumped straight from high school to the league in 2004, carrying comparisons to Magic Johnson before he'd even turned 20. Picked 4th overall by the Los Angeles Clippers, he looked like the next oversized floor general. Early flashes were real. Solid vision, smooth pace, confidence that didn't feel forced. By his 3rd season, he was averaging 9.8 points and 5.1 assists, and the hype didn't seem ridiculous. Then everything changed. In February 2007, a devastating knee injury tore multiple ligaments, damaged the joint, and forced a brutal recovery that lasted nearly 2 years. Some even wondered if he'd walk normally again, let alone run an offense. That kind of swing can flip a career upside down fast. From 2008 through 2014, he bounced across 8 teams in 6 seasons. Miami, Oklahoma City, Charlotte, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Brooklyn. Roles kept shrinking, expectations vanished, and he had to reinvent himself. The explosive prospect became a steady mid-range scorer who relied on footwork and touch instead of burst. Then came stability, with Golden State in 2014. Over 5 seasons, they went 67-15 in 1 year, won 3 championships, and he became a trusted veteran presence. Never an all-star, never the franchise centerpiece, just dependable, efficient, and smart. That's the confusion. He entered as a future superstar and retired as a 3-time champion role player with nearly 6,000 points and 959 games played. Same player, totally different story. Luol Deng, born in Wau Sudan in 1985, raised through Egypt, the United Kingdom, then the United States, his journey already felt larger than basketball. At Duke, he averaged 15.1 points and helped reach the Final Four, then went 7th overall in 2004 before landing in Chicago. Early on, he looked like a future star. By 2012 and 2013, he was an all-star and all-defensive second-team selection and a steady 15 to 17 point scorer who guarded nearly every position on the floor. That's where it gets strange. Despite averaging 14.8 points across 902 games and piling up over 13,000 points, he was always labeled a glue guy instead of a franchise centerpiece. Durable for years, playing 70-plus games regularly, he built a reputation as an Iron Man. Then in the 2013 playoffs, a spinal tap for suspected meningitis led to severe complications. He lost significant weight, dealt with a spinal fluid leak, and his prime suddenly shifted off course. In 2014, he signed a 6-year, $98 million deal in Miami. Solid production followed, but not superstar leaps. After a 4-year, $72 million contract with the Lakers, injuries limited him to just 13 games in back-to-back seasons. At one point, there was talk of a career-ending designation, yet he later suited up again. 2-time All-Star, no All-NBA, no titles. Retired at 34, a respected defender, humanitarian, and steady presence whose resume feels bigger than the headlines ever suggested. Danny Granger, a 6'9" wing from New Orleans who came into the league in 2005 as the 17th pick and slowly built himself into Indiana's go-to scorer. By his 3rd season, he was averaging 19.6 points, and by 2009, he exploded for 25.8 per game, 5th in the league, earning Most Improved Player and an All-Star nod. For a stretch, he was the face of the post-Reggie Miller Pacers, pouring in over 24 a night the following season and looking like a long-term franchise cornerstone. Then the drop-off hit hard. Knee tendinosis in 2012 limited him to just 5 games. Surgery followed, and the burst that made him dangerous never truly came back. Over his final 3 seasons, he played only 89 total games. Scoring fell from over 20 per night to single digits. The smooth footwork and lift were replaced by cautious movement and reduced minutes. He was traded in 2014, briefly with Philadelphia, then shortstops with the Clippers, Miami, and Phoenix. By age 32, he was effectively done. No championship, no deep playoff legacy, just 10 seasons, 586 games, and nearly 10,000 career points. That's why his career feels so confusing. From a 25-year-old all-star averaging elite numbers to a journeyman fighting his own knees, all in what should have been his prime. One of the sharpest rises and quickest fades of that era, leaving behind a massive what-if. Stephon Marbury, a Brooklyn prodigy who carried New York playground hype straight into the 1996 draft, taken 4th overall and immediately traded. From the start, the talent was obvious. Explosive first step, fearless pull-up jumper, and vision that produced 7.6 assists per game across his career. He averaged over 19 points in 846 games and dropped 20-plus in 6 different seasons. 2 All-Star selections, 2 All-NBA third-team honors. On paper, that's a star resume, yet his prime never felt settled. Minnesota to New Jersey, New Jersey to Phoenix, Phoenix to New York. 4 trades while still producing at a high level. In 2001, he averaged 23.9 points. In 2003, he put up 22 and over 8 assists, but team success lagged behind. Just 39 playoff games total, and no run past the second round. As the Knicks struggled, public feuds and locker room tension shaped the narrative. Fair or not, the label stuck. By age 31, he was out of the league after a brief stop in Boston. That abrupt ending made it seem like his story was closing early. Instead, it shifted continents. In China, he became a legend, multiple championships, a finals, most valuable player award, statues, documentaries, and a fan base that embraced him completely. So what's the verdict? elite numbers, turbulent reputation, limited postseason impact in the NBA, then global icon status overseas. A career split in half, leaving endless debate about legacy and Hall of Fame worthiness. Michael Jordan, his second season was supposed to be the launch pad, but instead it hit a wall 3 games in. He fractured his left foot, and just like that, 64 games gone. He didn't return until March, and even then, he was slapped with a strict minutes limit. That crushed his rhythm, and the numbers showed it. He played only 18 games. With just over 25 minutes per game, his averages, 22.7 points, 3.6 rebounds, 2.9 assists. Compared to what he normally did, those are low, especially for someone building off a historic rookie year. The Bulls? They finished 30-52, easily the worst full season record during Jordan's time. Even though they somehow made the playoffs, the regular season was already wrecked. The lost chemistry, the missed development time, the missed opportunity to build momentum, huge setbacks. His efficiency wasn't awful, but it was all cramped by low volume. You could argue the injury didn't just mess up that year, it stole a critical chapter from his early growth. What makes it stand out as his worst is how incomplete it all felt. Everything that could have pushed him forward just stalled. He came back strong later, but this season, statistically, physically, emotionally, this was the bottom. LeBron James. This is an example of a player who doesn't really have a bad season of their career. His rookie season set the stage, but compared to everything that came after, it's his career floor. The Cavaliers finished 35-47, missing the playoffs and ending up 5th in the division. They were better than the year before, but still way off from anything resembling a playoff team. The offense barely cracked 92 points per game, while the defense gave up over 95. That left LeBron carrying a lot of weight without much help. Individually, this was the lowest point in most major stats. He played 79 games, scored 20.9 per game, grabbed 5.5 boards, and dished out 5.9 assists. All 3 ended up being the lowest full season averages of his career. He also shot under 42%, had 273 turnovers, and finished with his least efficient season overall. Even his steals and blocks were at modest levels. No playoff appearance, no established stars around him, and way too much responsibility for a teenager. He still won Rookie of the Year, but in hindsight, this season's just his lowest statistical benchmark. Everything got better from here. But this campaign, it's the weakest version of one of the game's strongest careers. Russell Westbrook. Expectations were massive when he landed in Los Angeles, but the outcome was far from what anyone imagined. The Lakers finished 33-49 and didn't even make the play-in. Westbrook played 78 games, showing durability, but the on-court fit just didn't work. He averaged 18.5 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 7.1 assists. Solid numbers on paper, but way down from his typical output. His shooting, 44.4% from the field, under 30% from 3, and just 66.7% at the line. The efficiency took a dive. His player efficiency rating was only 14.9, way below star level. Turnovers were still high at nearly 4 per game, and his usage rate stayed elevated, around 27%, which only made those mistakes sting more. Add in his shooting struggles, and spacing collapsed. Defensively, he had lapses that hurt an already shaky Lakers defense. He didn't adapt well off the ball, and the chemistry never clicked. Even with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the trio only played 21 games together. Mix in constant lineup changes, media scrutiny, and boos from the crowd, and you've got a season that felt like a meltdown more than a misstep. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Nikola Jokic. His rookie year wasn't bad, but it's still his baseline. He played 80 games and averaged just under 22 minutes per night. That limited role kept his counting stats modest. 10 points, 7 rebounds, 2.4 assists. He added a steal and half a block per game, while shooting over 51% from the field. He didn't take many threes, but still hit 1/3 of his attempts. The Nuggets weren't contenders, and Jokic came off the bench early behind veterans like Kenneth Faried. He wasn't asked to lead, create, or anchor the offense yet. Even with the minutes restriction, he posted nearly 800 points and over 560 rebounds. He made the all-rookie first team and finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting. So clearly, the talent was visible. It was a starting point, not a step back. The low stats came from a limited role, not poor performance. There were no major efficiency drops, no drama, no team collapse pinned on him. If anything, it was the quiet setup before the rise. He'd go on to dominate later, but this was the calm beginning, a low ceiling, but definitely not a floor crash. Kobe Bryant. He entered the league straight out of high school, and at 18, was the youngest player on a stacked Lakers roster. That squad didn't need a rookie to lead. They already had Eddie Jones, Nick Van Exel, and were winning games, finishing 56-26. Kobe only started 6 games and averaged just over 15 minutes a night. That meant limited chances to impact the game, and his numbers reflected that. He put up 7.6 points, 1.9 rebounds, and 1.3 assists per game. His shooting splits weren't flashy, 41.7% from the field and 37.5% from deep. But the attempts were low. Free throws, solid at 81.9%. He played 71 games and totaled 539 points. In the playoffs, he averaged just over 8 points in 9 games, but shot under 39%. Nothing embarrassing, just typical rookie growing pains. He still won the slam dunk contest and made the all-rookie second team. But this season, in terms of minutes, role, and production, is clearly at the bottom of his resume. Not a bad season, just a small beginning for someone who'd end up being Paul George. His first season with Philadelphia came with major expectations, and instead, it became a perfect storm of injuries, inconsistency, and disappointment. He played just 41 games and averaged 16.2 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 4.3 assists in over 32 minutes per night. The scoring drop was huge. This was one of his lowest outputs since early in his career. His shooting splits were also underwhelming. Just 43% from the field, 35.8 from 3, and 81.4 from the line. But the real issue was health. A preseason knee injury started things off badly, and it only got worse. He missed games throughout the year and was eventually shut down in March with a left knee and adductor injury. Surgery followed in July, capping off a season where he couldn't find rhythm or reliability. The Sixers, expected to contend, finished 24-58 and missed the playoffs completely. George was brought in to help form a star trio, but the injuries and his drop in production crushed that vision. When you factor in the missed time, the drop-off in stats, and how poorly the team performed, it's hard not to call this his most disappointing full season. Patrick Ewing. By the time he suited up for Orlando in his 17th and final season, the days of 20-point double-doubles were far behind him. He played 65 games, averaging under 14 minutes per night. That translated to just 6 points and 4 rebounds per game, along with under 1 assist, block, and steal. The shooting numbers didn't help either, just 44% from the field and 70% from the line, both well below his career norms. This wasn't the Knicks' version of Ewing. He wasn't brought in to dominate. He was there for veteran depth. The Magic were led by Tracy McGrady, and Grant Hill barely played due to another injury. So Ewing was a bench piece on a team that finished 44-38 and got bounced in the first round. In the playoffs, he averaged fewer than 7 points on 32% shooting. What makes this season stand out is how far it fell from the heights of his career. The shot blocking was nearly invisible, the mobility was gone, and his impact on both ends was minimal. It wasn't disastrous, just the slow, quiet exit of a once great center, wrapping up a Hall of Fame career with a whisper, not a bang. Kevin Durant. His rookie season was the starting point, but compared to what came after, it's the clear floor. He played 80 games and averaged over 34 minutes a night. The numbers looked solid: 20.3 points, 4.4 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1 steal, and nearly 1 block. But the shooting splits told a different story, just 43% from the field. That's one of the lowest marks of his entire career. The team, a complete mess. The Seattle Supersonics won only 20 games and gave up over 106 points per night. Their defense was one of the worst in the league, and their offensive rating barely cracked triple digits. Durant had to carry a huge load right away with almost no support. That led to difficult shots, forced possessions, and defensive mismatches every game. It was a lot for a 19-year-old. No playoffs, no real rhythm, and no help. Just raw talent trying to survive in a broken system. This wasn't a collapse, though. It was just the beginning. Compared to every season that followed, it's his statistical floor. The growth after this made the gap obvious. This was his lowest full season version, but it was still better than most players' peaks. Shaq. His final season with Boston was more curtain call than comeback. He played just 37 games and averaged a little over 20 minutes a night. His production dropped hard, 9.2 points, 4.8 rebounds, and just over 1 block per game. The field goal percentage stayed sky high at 66.7%, but that came on low volume, with most of his shots at the rim. Free throws? Still a struggle, 55%. This wasn't a roster built around him. The Celtics had Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Rajon Rondo. Shaq was there to fill minutes, not carry anything. Injuries didn't help either. His lower body issues kept him out of nearly half the season and limited his movement when he did play. In the playoffs, his impact disappeared entirely. He logged just 2 games, scoring 1 point total with 0 rebounds. His final game, 3 minutes, no shots, and no stats. For a player known for dominance, this ending felt incredibly muted. It wasn't a collapse. It was just time. The roll shrunk, the legs slowed, and the production faded. For someone with such a loud career, this was his quietest season, a legendary exit without the roar. Hakeem. His final season with Toronto marked the end of an era, but statistically, it's also his lowest full season mark across the board. He played 61 games, averaging just over 22 minutes. His numbers dipped to 7.1 points, 6 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 1.2 steals, and 1.5 blocks per game. Shooting just over 46% from the field, he didn't attempt a single 3 all season. His role was clearly reduced. Gone were the 35-minute nights and dominant post presence. On a middling Raptors squad that finished 42 and 40, Hakeem wasn't expected to lead, just support. But even in that context, his production was quiet. Toronto's offense ranked near the bottom of the league, and while their defense held up, Hakeem was more veteran presence than interior anchor. In the playoffs, his numbers fell again, under 6 points and 4 boards per game, with minimal impact. This wasn't a collapse. It was a gradual sunset. He still had a few double-digit rebounding games, but his presence on both ends had shrunk. It wasn't dramatic, just the final chapter of a legendary career, ending with a team that needed more than he could give. Giannis. His rookie season was the raw blueprint of what would become a 2-time MVP, but the numbers? Easily the lowest of his career. He played 77 games and averaged just under 25 minutes per night. His stats? 6.8 points, 4.4 rebounds, 1.9 assists, under 1 steal and under 1 block. Not exactly eye-popping. He shot just over 41% from the field, 34% from 3 on barely 1 attempt a game, and 68% from the line. The Bucks? Complete disaster. 15 and 67, worst record in the league. That meant little structure, limited spacing, and basically 0 support for a teenage rookie learning the league on the fly. His usage was low, and he wasn't asked to do much except exist on the court and not break anything. He showed flashes, a couple double-doubles, some highlight blocks, effort plays, but statistically, this was the floor. No other full season in his career comes close to being this light on production. Still, it wasn't failure, it was foundation. This was the season where Giannis learned how to walk in the NBA before he ever thought about flying. Tracy McGrady, his 2011-12 season with Atlanta, was the quietest stretch of his career. He played 52 games and averaged just over 16 minutes per night. His stat line, 5.3 points, 3 rebounds, 2.1 assists, with barely a third of a steal or block per game. He shot 43.7% from the field and 67% from the line, numbers that wouldn't raise eyebrows for a rookie, let alone a 7-time All-Star. He was signed for the veteran minimum and used like it, strictly bench minutes with no real role. Gone were the days of isolation-heavy scoring bursts and 30-point nights. The most he scored all year was 17 points, and that happened once. He never had a string of big games or even consistent double-digit outing. The Hawks made the playoffs, but McGrady's impact barely registered, just over 4 points per game in 6 appearances. This was the full downturn. Injuries had chipped away for years, and now he was just filling space. Compared to what he once was, this season is the clearest visual of the fall. Limited minutes, minimal output, and nothing left to lean on. For someone who once owned the league, this was the last faint echo. Allen Iverson. The 2008 to 2009 season with Detroit was the kind of basketball mismatch that felt doomed from the start. After getting traded from Denver, he landed on a team stacked with veterans, a new coach, and a direction that didn't exactly scream tailored for Iverson's style. They gave up Chauncey Billups for him, hoping to shake things up, but the results were underwhelming. Detroit finished 39 and 43, barely scraping into the playoffs before getting swept by Cleveland. Iverson's numbers weren't terrible, but they were clearly a step back. He averaged just over 17 points and nearly 5 assists, but his shooting took a hit, dropping to around 41% from the field and under 30 from deep. His explosiveness looked dulled, and it showed. Then came the real drama. He refused to come off the bench and publicly said he'd rather retire than be a reserve. He accused the Pistons of lying to him about his role, and things quickly spiraled. That chemistry, gone. Eventually, a back injury shut him down completely in April, right before the playoffs. He didn't even get the chance to try and flip the story. He later called it the worst year of his career, and honestly, it's hard to argue. Larry Bird. The 1988 to 1989 season was flat out brutal. He only played 6 games the entire year, before surgery on both heels knocked him out for good. Just 6. The Celtics were forced to run without their biggest piece, and it showed. They finished 42-40, barely grabbing the 8th seed before Detroit wiped them out 3-0 in the first round. Even in those few appearances, Bird still managed almost 20 points a night, with over 6 rebounds and nearly 5 assists. His shooting was solid at just above 47% from the field and an incredible 94% from the line. But he took 0 3-pointers, which felt odd, even for that era. The real issue, though, wasn't about how he played. It was that he barely played at all. This wasn't just any season lost to injury. It marked a hard stop in momentum. No time to adapt, no stretch to recover. The team scrambled, moved Danny Ainge mid-season, and never regained rhythm. Bird was technically on the playoff roster, but never saw the floor. For a guy who dominated the decade, this season turned into a red flag signaling that his body was starting to break down. Anthony Davis, his 2012 to 2013 rookie season, had all the hype, but not all the polish. He came in as the top pick with huge expectations after dominating college. And while the flashes were real, the finished product wasn't there yet. He played 64 games, averaging nearly 29 minutes, 13.5 points, over 8 rebounds, and nearly 2 blocks. That defensive presence already visible. He even had over 20 double-doubles, but that offensive game was still raw. Not a ton of face-up scoring, not much playmaking, and barely any shooting range. His efficiency inside was solid at 51%, and his free throw shooting was decent at 75%, but he only averaged 1 assist and still had moments where the speed and physicality of the league looked like a lot. Late in the season, a knee injury shut him down early, which definitely slowed his momentum. Then there was the Damian Lillard situation. Lillard took Rookie of the Year in a landslide, playing all 82 games and becoming Portland's main guy. Davis didn't have that kind of offensive role yet, so even though the tools were there, the impact wasn't loud enough. This season stands as Davis's clear statistical floor. Magic Johnson. The 1995 to 1996 season was his unexpected return, but it was also his clear statistical low. After retiring in 91, he came back at age 36 and joined the Lakers in late January. He only played 32 games, mostly off the bench, starting just 9 of them. That already set the tone. It wasn't the old Magic running the show. He played nearly 30 minutes a night and still put up decent numbers with almost 15 points, nearly 7 assists, and close to 6 rebounds. His shooting splits weren't bad either, 46% from the field and nearly 86% from the line, even hitting close to 38% of his threes on low volume. But the total production was light. He only scored 468 points and had 220 assists all season. That's nowhere near his past output, even if the per-game stats seem fine on paper. The Lakers won 53 games, but got bounced early in the playoffs, losing 3-1 to Houston. Magic played some minutes at power forward instead of point guard, which showed how much the game and his role had changed. This comeback wasn't about dominance, it was about closure. Bill Russell. The 1966 to 1967 season was his first as a player coach, and it's remembered as one of the few seasons where the Celtics didn't finish on top. Boston still had an incredible regular season, going 60-21, but they got bounced in the Eastern Conference Finals by Philadelphia, who ended their streak of 8 straight titles. That alone made the season feel fragile in the larger picture of Russell's dominance. As a player, he still logged over 40 minutes a night, averaged more than 21 rebounds, and put up nearly 6 assists per game. But his scoring dropped to just over 13 a night, and his shooting efficiency started to show signs of wear. In the playoffs, he still grabbed over 22 rebounds a game, but scored only around 10 points per night. That drop-off, especially against Wilt Chamberlain's Sixers, was tough. On top of playing, he was coaching, calling plays, managing egos, adjusting rotations, all while trying to anchor the paint. That dual role came with pressure and fatigue, especially with an aging roster and a league that was catching up fast. For a guy used to titles, this season tested everything: leadership, stamina, and adaptability. It wasn't collapse, it was vulnerability. D. Wade, the 2017 to 2018 season was split between Cleveland and Miami, and neither half came close to prime Wade. He played 67 games total, averaging just under 23 minutes a night. That was a sharp drop from his usual workload. His scoring fell to 11.4 points per game, the second lowest of his career at that point, and his rebounds and assists dropped to 3.8 and 3.4. He started the year with the Cavaliers, playing 46 games and averaging slightly over 11 points on around 45% shooting. Mid-season, he was traded back to Miami, which brought some nostalgia, but not a big statistical bump. Across both teams, his shooting finished at about 43%, and his advanced metrics, like true shooting, were some of the lowest of his career. His three-point shot remained mostly unused, and his playmaking impact wasn't what it used to be. This wasn't just aging, it was role reduction. Wade wasn't a focal point anymore. He was a bench piece, a veteran voice, and a glue guy in transition. No real signature stretch, no defining moments. Just a year of short bursts, lower usage, and clear signs that his time as a franchise centerpiece was over. Kareem. The 1988 to 1989 season was his final run, and while it closed out a legendary career, the signs of decline were everywhere. At age 42, he played 74 games but averaged just over 22 minutes per night. That was a massive drop from his prime years. His scoring dipped to 10.1 points per game, his lowest in any full season, and his rebounds fell to just 4.5. For a guy known for efficiency, his shooting slid below 50% for the first time ever. He blocked just over one shot a game and added only one assist per night. In the playoffs, he played 15 games and put up around 11 points and under 4 rebounds, with the Lakers making it to the finals but getting swept by Detroit. His last NBA game, 7 points, 3 boards. The Lakers still had Magic, Worthy, and a strong roster, but backcourt injuries exposed them in the finals. Kareem's role had shrunk. He wasn't the offensive anchor anymore, just a respected veteran finishing the marathon. This wasn't a failure, but it was clearly a low in terms of production and impact. The ending was graceful, but the numbers told the truth. Tim Duncan. The 2015 to 2016 season marked the quiet end of a legendary run, and it came with clear signs of decline. He played in 61 games, averaging just over 25 minutes a night, well below his old workload. His scoring dipped to 8.6 points per game, the lowest of his career for any season with real playing time. He grabbed 7.3 boards and handed out 2.7 assists, which were also down from his usual standards. His field goal percentage stayed solid at 48.8, but he wasn't creating or converting like he used to. He didn't attempt a single three, and his trips to the line were rare. Defensively, he still gave effort, averaging just over 1 block and almost 1 steal per game. But the speed and timing weren't quite there anymore. In the playoffs, his numbers dipped again. By the time San Antonio fell to Oklahoma City, Duncan was averaging 6 points and fewer than 3 field goals made per game. He wasn't washed, but the decline was clear. The Spurs still won 67 games, but Duncan's days as the engine were done. His final season was graceful, but unmistakably his statistical floor. Wilt Chamberlain. The 1972 to 1973 season was his final act, and while he was still a force in some ways, the version of Wilt that shattered records was mostly gone. He played all 82 games and averaged over 43 minutes a night, still an Iron Man, but his scoring had dipped to just 13.2 points per game, by far the lowest in any full season of his career. What he lacked in volume, he made up for in accuracy. Wilt shot a staggering 72.7% from the field, setting a new record. His rebounding stayed elite too, with 18.6 per game, leading the league once again. But the role was different. He wasn't the primary scorer anymore. He focused on defense, rebounding, and efficient finishes, rarely taking control of the offense like he had in past years. The Lakers finished 60-22, but lost in the finals to New York, 4-1. In his last game, Wilt had 23 points and 21 rebounds, ending his career with a dunk in the final seconds. It was efficient, it was dignified, but compared to the superhuman standards he set earlier, this season was clearly his statistical floor. James Harden, the 2009 to 2010 season, was his NBA starting point, and while it wasn't bad, it sits firmly as his statistical basement. Drafted 3rd overall by Oklahoma City, he came off the bench for all 76 games, averaging just under 23 minutes a night. He wasn't expected to carry the offense. He played behind Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, which meant fewer touches, fewer isolations, and a very different role than he'd eventually grow into. He averaged 9.9 points per game, shot about 40% from the field, and handed out just under 2 assists. His three-point percentage was solid at 37.5%, but the volume was low. His overall shot selection wasn't as refined, and the confidence to control a possession just wasn't there yet. He still managed over 1 steal per game, but defensively and physically, he was adjusting to the league's pace. In the playoffs, he logged just 20 minutes a night and scored under 8 points per game. Compared to his later MVP-level seasons, this rookie year is barely recognizable, but it's a clean example of a baseline. No huge highs, no major lows, just the starting blocks of a future scoring machine. Oscar Robertson, the 1973 to 1974 season was his last, and it looked the part. At 35, he played 70 games and averaged just over 35 minutes a night. That was still a heavy load, but the numbers told a different story. He scored 12.7 points per game, his lowest in any full season, and pulled down only 4 rebounds per game. Modest for a guard once known for stuffing the box score, his efficiency slipped too. He shot under 44% from the field. Far from his early career output, the passing was still solid at 6.4 assists a game, and that climbed to over 9 in the playoff. But this wasn't the Big O leading the show anymore. Kareem was the centerpiece. Robertson had clearly shifted into a veteran facilitator role. The Bucks were good. They won 60 games and reached the finals, but Robertson's role was more about experience and presence than production. In the postseason, his scoring barely hit 14 a night. He wasn't washed, but the dominance was gone. No more triple-double threats. No more takeover games. His final season was respectable, but compared to his peak, it marked the slow fade of a basketball giant. George Gervin. The 1985 to 1986 season with Chicago was the last chapter of his NBA story, and it showed. He played all 82 games, which proved his durability, but he averaged just 25 minutes a night, down from the heavy loads he carried in San Antonio. His scoring dropped to 16.2 points per game, a far cry from his dominant mid-20s and 30s he posted during his prime. His rebound sat at just 2.6 per game, with 1.7 assists. He wasn't creating offense for others and wasn't crashing the boards either. His field goal percentage was still decent at 47%, and his free throw shooting stayed elite at nearly 88%. But outside of one throwback performance, a 45-point night against Dallas, he never really took over games. He attempted almost no three-pointers and rarely forced turnovers. The Bulls were missing Michael Jordan for most of the season, and the Iceman stepped in to provide some veteran scoring. But Chicago still finished 30-52 and exited in the first round. For a legend like the Iceman, it was a quiet end. The game had shifted, his role had shrunk, and this final season became his statistical floor. John Havlicek. The 1962 to 1963 season was his rookie year, and while it planted the seeds of a legendary career, it also marked his statistical floor. He played 80 games, averaged about 27 minutes, and put up 14.3 points, 6.7 rebounds, and just over 2 assists per game. Respectable? Absolutely. But compared to what he'd become, this version of Havlicek was still learning the ropes. The Celtics were stacked. Bill Russell, Sam Jones, Tom Heinsohn, and Bob Cousy were running the show. Havlicek joined as a role player on a championship team, not as a savior. His efficiency was solid, at around 44% from the field, and he shot nearly 73% from the line. In the playoffs, he averaged close to 12 points a game over 11 contests, helping Boston win yet another title. He made the all-rookie team, but he wasn't a focal point yet. His playmaking was limited, his usage modest, and the team didn't need him to dominate. This was a steady support role, the start, not the spotlight. Later, he'd become a franchise cornerstone, but here, he was the rookie fitting in. Not yet the legend leading the way, Tony Parker. The 2017-18 season hit like a quiet thud in Tony Parker's career. That year, the Spurs posted a solid 47-35 record, but Parker was almost unrecognizable from his prime. He only played 55 games and averaged under 20 minutes per night. His scoring dipped to 7.7 points per game, marking one of the lowest outputs of his entire career when he was still getting regular minutes. The reduced role wasn't subtle either. Parker often came off the bench, watching as younger guards like Murray started taking control of the offense. His assist numbers were down too, at just around 3.5 per game, way off from his 6 to 8 averages back in the day. The shot just wasn't there either. His three-point percentage sank to a rough 27%. Even in the playoffs, his impact barely registered. Just 13 minutes a game, shooting under 38% and barely over 6 points per contest. For someone whose legacy was built on postseason performances, that hurt. The decline wasn't unexpected given his age, but the gap between expectations and production was wide. That season didn't just show a drop, it showed the end of a chapter. Moses Malone, the 1992-93 season with the Milwaukee Bucks, stands out as one of the roughest chapters of his career. He had joined the team on a 2-year deal, but a herniated disc in his back quickly changed everything. He tried playing through it, yet surgery in November forced him to miss nearly the entire season. The Bucks themselves stumbled to a 28-54 record and missed the playoffs, which only added to the gloomy atmosphere. Malone suited up for just 11 games. He averaged about 9.5 minutes per night, a far cry from the heavy workloads he had carried for years. His scoring dipped to only 4.5 points per game, with just over 4 rebounds and under 1 block. Even more telling, his field goal percentage plummeted to roughly 31%, an unheard of number for a veteran center known for scoring inside. Free throws at 77% were one of the few bright spots. The contrast to the prior season was staggering. He played all 82 games then, posting 15.6 points and over 9 rebounds per night. That drop-off shows just how badly injury limited him. It wasn't about declining effort, it was about being unable to contribute. Pre-season, the stage was already buzzing. By the time teams started getting ready for training camp, the draft had already sent a bunch of top prospects to their new homes. Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota, D'Angelo Russell landing in Los Angeles, and Porzingis heading into the New York pressure cooker. But the draft wasn't just about top picks. Teams were flipping players and rights, like they were dealing cards at a casino. Luke Ridnour, for example, got passed around so fast he might have needed a GPS just to keep up with where he technically played. By the time the summer moved past the draft, trades were popping up across the league. Houston got Ty Lawson from Denver, stacking up guards like they were bracing for some kind of perimeter shortage. Boston pulled in David Lee, and Dallas grabbed Zaza from Milwaukee, who seemed to be cleaning out every drawer in the house. Detroit got Marcus Morris and a couple others from Phoenix, in what looked like a move to just lighten the load out west. But let's not pretend anything that summer came close to the chaos of the DeAndre Jordan saga. Jordan had verbally agreed to head to Dallas. It seemed like a done deal. 4 years, $80 million. Dallas started rearranging their whole roster, expecting him to anchor their defense and gobble up rebounds. Then, out of nowhere, everything flipped. The Clippers pulled off a last-minute scramble that felt more like a reality show than an NBA negotiation. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Doc Rivers, and the whole crew flew out to Houston to keep Jordan from signing with Dallas. They holed up in his house until the official signing window opened. No one was getting in. Dallas folks were locked out, literally and metaphorically. The entire thing played out live online. Chandler Parsons tweeted a plain emoji. Clippers players fired back with cars and padlocks. Griffin even posted a picture of a chair propped under a doorknob. Meanwhile, Dallas was left on the outside, looking in while Jordan ended up re-signing with the Clippers for about $87 million. The aftermath, heated interviews, social media fireworks, and Mark Cuban reportedly cruising around Houston trying to find Jordan's house. Cuban denied that, but the damage was done. Parsons called Jordan unprofessional, and Dallas was left scrambling to rework their plan without a franchise center. All that chaos only made the rest of the offseason look even more businesslike in comparison. Teams were still working to reshuffle and retool. San Antonio re-signed Tim Duncan and pulled in LaMarcus Aldridge with a 4-year, $80 million deal. It wasn't a huge surprise, but it signaled the Spurs were still going all in while Duncan was around. Golden State kept Draymond Green locked in with a multi-year deal. They weren't blowing things up, just reloading. The Clippers added some pieces too, including Paul Pierce and Josh Smith. Dallas, licking its wounds from the Jordan mess, brought in D. Will and tried to make something out of the Zaza trade. Plenty of other teams got in on the free agency carousel. The Lakers made a rare move and signed Roy Hibbert. Sacramento stocked up with Rajon Rondo, Marco Bellinelli, and Costa Koufos. Miami added Stat and Gerald Green, while also keeping D. Wade and Goran Dragic. Toronto added Carroll Bismack and Corey Joseph to boost their depth. Indiana brought in Monte Ellis and Jordan Hill, trying to build some new chemistry around Paul George. Even Boston stayed active, re-signing Jay Crowder and bringing in Amir Johnson, David Lee, and a handful of others. But despite all the signings, one thing stood out. This offseason wasn't packed with superstar moves. It was more about maintaining continuity, adjusting on the margins, and avoiding financial disasters. Restricted free agents like Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler stayed put. San Antonio's move for Aldridge, though, was seen as one of the biggest deals. Not just because of the talent, but because it sent a clear message. They were still hunting for a title. Aldridge gave them another option next to Duncan, and the combo of experience and firepower had people paying attention. Meanwhile, Steve Kerr's back issues meant Golden State had to make an early adjustment. Luke Walton stepped in as interim head coach during training camp. Not exactly the smoothest start for the defending champs, but the structure was already in place. Other teams were shuffling coaching staffs, exploring their options. Denver was deep in their search, with names like Mike D'Antoni and Alvin Gentry floating around. It wasn't just about rosters, it was about who would be running the show from the sidelines. By late September, camps were opening up. Teams filled rosters with fringe players, undrafted guys, and vets on their last chances. Minnesota made some early noise with hints at rotation changes. Golden State had to adjust without Kerr. Every team had a storyline brewing. Even the leftover effects of the previous trade deadline were still hanging over the league. 37 players moved back in February, with a mess of draft picks included. That wild flurry of activity only added more pressure for teams to make the right summer moves. And then there were all those minor trades and roster tweaks. Zoran Dragic went to Boston, Ray McCallum headed to San Antonio, and Milwaukee quietly offloaded Jared Dudley. These weren't headliners, but they all added up. Teams were fine-tuning, shedding contracts, creating space, and stockpiling assets. The bigger picture? A league in transition. Some teams were building from the ground up with rookies like Towns and Porzingis. Others were tweaking, trying to hold on to windows that were slowly closing. There wasn't a massive shift in star power, but there was a sense that everything was being positioned for something bigger down the road. No team wanted to be the one that missed their moment, and the ones that did, well, they'd be hearing about it all year long. Because in the NBA, the preseason isn't a warm-up, it's the opening move. And in 2015, the board got flipped before the first game even started. Regular season. The league turned 70 and decided to throw itself a record-breaking party. Golden State went on a tear that ended in 73 wins and just 9 losses, making that the best regular season record in NBA history. They made over 1,000 three-pointers, led the league in scoring, assists, and shooting percentages, and had a point differential that made opponents question their career choices. Steph Curry turned into a video game character, dropping over 30 points per game and becoming the first player ever to hit 400 threes in one season. He didn't just win the Most Valuable Player award, he swept every vote. The league had never seen a unanimous MVP until Curry casually dropped that into the mix while averaging over 2 steals and nearly 91% from the free throw line. Meanwhile, Kobe Bryant announced he was calling it a career, and suddenly, every road game turned into a farewell tour. Every arena gave him a tribute. Jerseys, montages, you name it. He played in 66 games and averaged over 17 points per night. But the real show was his final game. 60 points against Utah, a full-blown curtain call in front of a roaring crowd. On the opposite end of the Magic, the Philadelphia 76ers managed to set a different kind of record. They started the season with 17 straight losses and broke the single-season losing streak record by hitting 28 straight. They finally got a win on December 1st, just barely beating the Lakers, who were also experiencing their own brand of basketball despair. The Eastern Conference actually had 8 playoff teams finish above 500 for the first time in a decade. Meanwhile, the Lakers finished 17-65, which was their worst season ever. Dirk Nowitzki reached his 10,000th field goal on November 30th, becoming the 13th player to ever do that. Kevin Garnett passed Jason Kidd for 3rd most games played and added a couple more milestones to the resume. 26,000 career points and the all-time lead in defensive rebounds. Paul Gasol played his 1,000th game. December turned into an achievement checklist. Rajon Rondo got his 5,000th assist. Paul Pierce passed 26,000 points. And Dirk flew past Shaq to become the 6th highest scorer in league history. Dwight Howard reached 15,000 points. And LeBron James kept climbing the all-time scoring list, passing Alex English by the end of the year. Then came the trade deadline. It wasn't as wild as some years, but 18 teams got involved and 24 players were moved. Lance and a future pick were sent to Memphis, with Jeff Green heading to the Clippers. Markieff Morris went to Washington, and the Suns got back Chris Humphries, DeJuan Blair, and a first-round pick. Joel Anthony was dumped on the 76ers in a deal that barely registered for anyone outside of salary cap trackers. Brian Roberts was traded twice on the same day, becoming the human equivalent of a conference call no one wanted to join. A lot of the trades involved role players, depth shuffles, or tax relief. Nothing seismic, but enough to shift playoff rotations around the edges. Stat leaders painted a clear picture of who ran the show. Curry led the league in points per game and efficiency. Drummond pulled down almost 15 rebounds per game for Detroit. And Rondo dished nearly 12 assists per game in Sacramento. Whiteside was blocking shots like his life depended on it, averaging almost 4 per game. Redick led the league in three-point percentage, and DeAndre Jordan somehow made over 70% of his shots, while shooting mostly from inside the restricted area. James Harden led the league in minutes and turnovers, setting the single-season turnover record with 374. Yes, he broke the record, then kept going, like it was a personal challenge. The Warriors roster, already stacked, benefited from team chemistry that had been building for years. The ball zipped around, shooters found space, and the defense wasn't just decent. It held teams under 100 points on most nights, while the offense buried them in threes. All the headlines and highlight reels made it easy to forget just how deep the league was. San Antonio quietly won 67 games behind a smothering defense and Kawhi Leonard's steady rise. Cleveland kept its grip on the East, cruising toward a top seed, even while juggling injuries and mid-season lineup tweaks. Even in the middle of the standings, teams were jockeying hard for position. The Raptors leaned on Kyle Lowry and DeMar, while Boston's scrappy depth kept them competitive. Miami found a groove with a mix of veterans like D. Wade and younger talent, while Charlotte surprised people by sneaking into the mix. Houston and Chicago both underwhelmed relative to expectations, barely scraping into the playoffs. New Orleans was a mess of injuries, and Sacramento's drama never took a vacation. Some teams were clearly building, others treading water, and a few were already thinking about the lottery before the All-Star break. By January, it was clear the season was shaping up as a race to catch Golden State, which, spoiler alert, nobody did. The Warriors opened the season with 24 straight wins, setting a new record for best start in NBA history. It took Milwaukee to finally hand them their first loss. Media buzz was constant. Could they reach 72? Could they go 82-0? The conversation shifted every week as they kept climbing. Every loss made headline. Every win just felt inevitable. And as they kept climbing, the pressure started building. While all that noise was happening, Portland quietly put together a solid year, led by Damian Lillard, who didn't make the All-Star game, but definitely let everyone know about it. Utah made a late push, and Phoenix just kind of unraveled. Brooklyn and the Lakers were in free fall. By the time April rolled around, the playoff picture was mostly set. Some final jockeying for seeds happened, but the biggest story was still the Warriors closing in on win number 73. On April 13th, they got it, and the regular season ended with history made. All that remained was the question: could the team with the greatest regular season ever back it up in the playoffs? That answer would have to wait. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, awards. Steph Curry didn't just win Most Valuable Player, he broke the voting system. Every single first place vote went to him. 131 voters, 131 times his name was on top. That made him the first unanimous MVP in league history. His stats were ridiculous: 30 points per game, over 6 assists, 5 rebounds, over 2 steals, shooting over 50% from the field, nearly 46% from deep, and over 90% from the line. He led the league in several advanced stats too, including nearly 18 win shares and over 31 in player efficiency. No one else came close. Second in the MVP vote was Kawhi Leonard, who had 634 points. LeBron James followed right behind at 631. That tells you how far ahead Curry was. He scored the maximum possible and left everyone else scrambling for runner-up. Speaking of Kawhi, he didn't leave the year empty-handed. He walked off with Defensive Player of the Year. He got 84 first-place votes and 547 total points, giving him a comfortable lead over Draymond Green, who finished second with 44 first-place votes and 421 points. Kawhi was everywhere on defense. He averaged nearly 2 steals and 1 block a game, while also putting up over 21 points. He shot over 50% from the field and hit nearly 44% from 3. He played over 33 minutes a night and anchored one of the top defensive units in the league. His win shares topped 13, and his impact was felt on both ends of the court. Rookie of the Year went to Karl Anthony Towns, and honestly, it wasn't close. He played in all 82 games and averaged over 18 points, 10 rebounds, and nearly 2 blocks per game. His shooting splits were impressive for a first-year center: 54% from the field, over 34% from 3, and 81% from the free throw line. Porzingis made things interesting early in the season, but Towns never slowed down. Porzingis came in second with a voting share of about 56%, while Towns ran away with the rest. Nikola Jokic finished third, giving the rookie class some serious long-term potential. Jamal Crawford took home 6th Man of the Year. He didn't start, but he finished plays. He averaged over 14 points per game off the bench, shot 40% from the field, and hit over 90% of his free throws. He pulled in 51 first-place votes and 341 total points. Iggy was close behind with 33 first-place votes, but couldn't quite catch up. McCollum was named Most Improved Player, and that wasn't a surprise to anyone paying attention. He made a huge leap, jumping from under 7 points per game the previous season to nearly 21. He added over 4 assists and 3 rebounds per game, while shooting over 41% from 3 and nearly 45% overall. He led the voting with 101 first-place votes and 559 total points, giving him a dominant share near 86%. Coach of the Year went to Steve Kerr. The guy missed part of the season due to health issues, but still guided Golden State to 73 wins. He became the 3rd Warriors coach to ever win the award, joining Alex Hannum and Don Nelson. All NBA first team included Curry, Westbrook, LeBron, Kawhi, and DeAndre Jordan. Curry's spot was unanimous. Westbrook and LeBron were near locks, and Kawhi had both offensive and defensive credentials. Jordan's selection got people talking. His defense and rebounding were elite, but some questioned his place over other scoring bigs. Second team featured Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Draymond Green, and DeMarcus Cousins. Third team had Kyle Lowry, Klay Thompson, Paul George, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Drummond. The depth of talent across all three teams was clear, and plenty of those guys could have made a case for higher placement. The all-defensive first team included Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Avery Bradley, Draymond Green, and Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi and Green were no-brainers. Bradley's perimeter defense got him there, and Jordan's rim protection helped secure his spot. Chris Paul's defensive IQ and consistency rounded it out. Second team included Whiteside, Tony Allen, Jimmy Butler, Paul Millsap, and Paul George. Whiteside was leading the league in blocks. Allen was still a menace, and Butler and George handled the toughest assignments night after night. The all-rookie first team was loaded. Towns, Porzingis, Jokic, Okafor, and Devin Booker made the cut. That group ended up defining future seasons for their teams. Second team had Moutier, D'Angelo Russell, Winslow, Turner, and Cauley Stein. Those picks reflected both production and potential. Executive of the Year went to R.C. Buford in San Antonio. His front office moves and long-term vision paid off with another elite regular season run. Mike Conley won the Sportsmanship Award, proving you can be competitive without throwing elbows. Wayne Ellington received the Citizenship Award, recognizing his off-court efforts. Vince Carter was named Teammate of the Year, because of course he was. 20 seasons deep and still making locker rooms better. Some of the award margins were especially interesting. Curry's unanimous MVP was a league first. Not one voter gave anyone else the top spot. Kawhi's win over Green in defensive player voting wasn't razor thin, but it wasn't a landslide either. He had just 40 more first place votes. McCollum's most improved numbers were dominant, and no one else was within reach. DeAndre Jordan's spot on the All-NBA first team was a lightning rod. Some fans and analysts questioned whether he deserved it over Cousins or even Drummond. His defense and rebounding were his main selling points, and he was on a team that won a lot of games. For sixth man, Crawford's scoring off the bench got the headline, but Iggy's all-around game nearly pulled off the upset. Voters clearly had to decide between flashy scoring and do-everything versatility. The all-rookie selections showed how deep the class was. Towns and Jokic both ended up becoming franchise cornerstones. Booker was already showing signs he could be elite, and Porzingis had New York buzzing. The year was packed with standout performances, but it also reminded everyone that the award races can be more than just stat sheets. They're about narrative, momentum, team success, and the eye test. For most categories, the choices were pretty clear, but a few definitely sparked debate. Bottom line, the awards for 2015 to 2016 gave us a clear snapshot of who ruled the league, who was rising, and who still had more to prove. Every ballot told a story, and the voters didn't hold back. Season highs. Kobe Bryant delivered the highest scoring performance of the entire season in his final game ever. April 13th, 2016, against Utah. 42 minutes, 60 points. Just saying it out loud sounds like something pulled from a movie script. He also added 4 rebounds and 4 assists. That game wasn't just a farewell, it was an explosion. No player scored more in a single game that season, and nobody came close in terms of theatrics. But if you're looking for dominance in the paint, Drummond stole that show. On November 3rd, 2015, against Indiana, he pulled down 29 rebounds. That's the highest single game rebound total of the year. Not 20, not 25, 29. He added 25 points and played 43 minutes. It was a full court takeover. Rajon Rondo owned the passing lanes all season, but he peaked twice. He had not one, but 2 20-assist games. First, on November 23rd, and then again on January 25th. Both games were with Sacramento, and in the January one against Charlotte, he tossed those 20 dimes while adding 10 rebounds and 7 points in 42 minutes. That's a triple-double missing the points. Steals had no single ruler. Instead, 4 players, tied at the top with 8 apiece. James Harden did it on March 23rd against Utah. Pablo Prigioni got his 8 on January 13th when Houston faced Miami. Ricky Rubio swiped his 8 against the Knicks on December 16th. Whiteside made sure no one got anything easy at the rim. He logged 11 blocks in a single game on January 15th against Denver. That wasn't just a random performance. He also scored 19 points and pulled down 17 rebounds. In 38 minutes, he was the tallest wall in the league. 11 blocks? That's a stat line most bigs would dream about in a week. Now let's talk about threes. Steph Curry put on a show on February 27th against Oklahoma City. That night, he made 12 three-pointers, tying the record at the time for most in a game. He ended with 46 points, and didn't just win the game, he shattered the Thunder's morale. That was also the night he broke his own single-season record for threes, and passed Kyle Korver for the most consecutive games with a three made. That number was 128 at the time. That game wasn't just record-setting, it was Curry at his most dangerous. One of those 12 threes came from nearly 40 feet out in overtime to win the game. That shot alone could have been its own headline. While Kobe had the 60-point explosion, Anthony Davis wasn't far behind. On February 21st against Detroit, Davis scored 59 points and grabbed 20 rebounds. That's the only 50-plus, 20-rebound game of the season. That game actually came just 2 days before Curry's 12-3 night. So yes, late February had some of the most ridiculous performances all year. To add some extra perspective, Drummond's 29-rebound game was 4 more than the next best. Rebounding numbers like that just don't happen anymore in a modern pace and space league. His line that night was straight out of the 90s. Whiteside's 11-block night stood out not just for the total, but because it wasn't padded. He also added 19 and 17, creating a near triple-double with blocks instead of assists. There was only one other double-digit block performance that season, and Whiteside had that too. Rondo's 20 assist games weren't just flashy. They came at a time when the Kings were experimenting with a fast-paced offense and letting him orchestrate every possession. In both of those games, he had over 40 minutes played and kept the ball moving non-stop. It's rare to hit 20 once, and he did it twice. James Harden's 8-steal game was the only time he led the league in that category. The rest of the season, he was more known for his offense. But that night, he turned into a ball-hawking menace. It's worth noting that despite the 8 steals, he still led the league in turnovers for the season. That night, though, he flipped the script. Pablo Prigioni, on the other hand, wasn't known for gaudy stat lines, but he found a rhythm against Miami and just picked them apart on defense. He only played 16 minutes in that game. 8 steals in 16 minutes is absurd. That ratio doesn't even look real. Curry's 12 threes weren't a fluke either. He had multiple games that season with double-digit three-pointers made. And the way he was shooting, it wasn't just the volume, it was the range, the timing, and the confidence. That game against the Thunder was one of the most iconic games of his career. Bookending the season, Kobe's 60 came in the final game of the entire regular season. That same night, the Warriors locked up their 73rd win. So April 13th wasn't just about one final moment, it was a night that capped off a season full of single-game absurdity. There were other wild games. Klay Thompson had a 45-point night. Jimmy Butler scored 53 in a comeback win over Philadelphia. Damian Lillard dropped 51 on Golden State and did it with swagger. But none of those quite reached the top of the leaderboard. Even with all that firepower, Curry's 12 threes and Kobe's 60 remain the gold standards. They were moments that grabbed the attention of casual fans, stat nerds, and historians all at once. When you break down these season highs, you're not just looking at numbers, you're looking at performances that defined careers, shattered records, and sometimes broke the internet. These were the games everyone talked about the next morning. Every stat line had its own story. Drummond controlled the glass. Rondo dropped dimes like it was 2011 again. Whiteside turned into a shot-blocking machine. Harden and Rubio turned into pickpocket specialists. And Kobe, he didn't just go out with a bang. He made sure no one else could touch that scoring mark all year. And for one final night, he owned the league one more time. Playoffs. The 2016 NBA playoffs ran from April 16th to June 19th with 16 teams battling for the title. Cleveland ended up winning the championship in historic fashion, taking down Golden State in 7 games. It was the franchise's first title and the first time any team came back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals. LeBron James was named Finals MVP, and the postseason was loaded with chaos, comebacks, suspensions, and records. In the first round, Cleveland swept Detroit 4-0. Kyrie averaged nearly 28 points. Kevin Love pulled down around 12 rebounds a game, and LeBron did everything else. The sweep ended with Game 4 being the final playoff game ever played at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Toronto and Indiana went to 7 games, with the Raptors finally getting their first Game 7 win. Charlotte and Miami also went to 7, with Miami taking Atlanta beat Boston in 6 games. In the West, Golden State handled Houston in 5, setting a record for most threes in a game with 21. Portland took out the Clippers in 6, and the Thunder knocked off the Spurs in 6 as well, despite San Antonio's 67-win regular season. In the second round, Cleveland stayed perfect, sweeping Atlanta with another barrage of 3. In Game 2, they hit 25 from deep, 18 in the first half alone. Toronto and Miami went another full 7 games, and Toronto reached the conference finals for the first time ever. Golden State faced Portland in the second round and closed it out in 5. Steph Curry returned from injury in Game 4 and dropped 17 in overtime to seal it. Oklahoma City beat San Antonio again, which had shocked many after the Spurs dominated Game 1 with a 30-point win. In the Eastern Conference Finals, Cleveland jumped out 2-0 lead against Toronto with dominant home win. The Raptors responded with 2 impressive wins in Toronto, tying the series. But Cleveland closed the door, winning Game 5 by 38 and Game 6 by 26. LeBron had 33 in the clincher, while Love added 20 points and 12 rebounds. In the West, the conference finals between Golden State and Oklahoma City turned into a classic. The Thunder took Game 1 in Oakland, then Golden State responded with a blowout in Game 2. Oklahoma City then crushed the Warriors in Games 3 and 4, putting the defending champs on the brink. Golden State won Game 5, at home behind Curry's 31 points. Game 6 became legendary. Klay Thompson hit 11 three-pointers and finished with 41 points, setting a new playoff record for threes made in a game. The Warriors came back to win by 7. In Game 7, Curry led the way with 36, and the Warriors used a 29-12 third quarter to flip the game. That comeback made them the 10th team in history to rally from down 3-1 in a series. It was also the first Western Conference Finals to go the distance since 2002. That Game 7 was also the last time Kevin Durant played for the Thunder. The finals started in Oakland. Golden State took Game 1 by 15, winning the bench battle 45-10. Game 2 was a 21-point blowout, with the Warriors up by 48 combined over the first 2 games. Cleveland came back with a 30-point win in Game 3, but dropped Game 4 at home, putting the series at 3-1. That's when it flipped. Draymond Green was suspended for Game 5 after picking up his 4th flagrant foul point in Game 4. Without him, Cleveland stormed Oracle Arena and won by 15. LeBron and Kyrie both scored 41 points, the first time 2 teammates ever scored 40 or more in the same finals game. Game 6 in Cleveland saw more drama. Curry fouled out and threw his mouthpiece into the stands, getting ejected. LeBron had 41 again, and the Cavaliers forced Game 7s with a 14-point win. Game 7 became one of the most famous games in NBA history. With the score tied at 89, late in the 4th, LeBron chased down Iggy and blocked his layup attempt off the backboard. Then Kyrie drilled a 3 over Curry to give Cleveland the lead for good. LeBron was fouled on a dunk attempt shortly after and made 1 free throw to seal it. Golden State's final shot was a Curry 3 defended by Kevin Love, which missed. Cleveland won 93-89 and took home the championship. They became the first team to win a finals Game 7 on the road since 1978. LeBron was the clear finals MVP. He averaged nearly 30 points, over 11 rebounds, nearly 9 assists, and over 2 blocks and 2 steals per game. He became the first player ever to lead all players in a final series in all 5 major categories. The Warriors finished the season with 73 wins, but it wasn't enough. They became the first team to win over 70 games and not take the title. They also became the first to lose a 3-1 lead in the finals. Cleveland went 16-5 in the playoffs. They swept the first 2 rounds, beat Toronto in 6, and then took down Golden State in 7. Toronto finished with 10 playoff wins, their most ever in a single postseason. Golden State had already gone 7 games with the Thunder and came into the finals with tired legs. Draymond's suspension and Bogut's injury hurt their front court, and Curry's knee wasn't at full strength after the earlier rounds. The playoff run also elevated several players. Kyrie's clutch performance, Klay's explosion in Game 6 of the Western Finals, and Durant's strong showing, despite the collapse, added layers to the offseason. Shortly after the finals, Durant signed with the Warriors. Cleveland's title validated their mid-season coaching change. They had fired David Blatt and promoted Tyronn Lue, who helped build better chemistry and a more focused postseason attack. The playoffs were full of oddities, like Cleveland hitting a playoff record 25 threes in a game, Curry setting multiple shooting records, and Klay breaking the 3-point mark. The turning point of the finals remains Draymond's suspension. The Warriors had a 3-1 lead before losing 3 straight games. It was the first time all year they lost 3 in a row. From April to June, the story shifted over and over. There were comebacks, ejections, records, and one of the greatest Game 7s ever played. The 2016 playoffs didn't just crown a champion, they rewrote history. Offseason, Kevin Durant leaving Oklahoma City and signing with Golden State hit the league like a meteor. He signed a 2-year deal worth a little over $54 million with a player option on the 2nd year. To make room, the Warriors dumped Andrew Bogut's salary, flipping him to Dallas, along with a future pick. Then came a chain reaction. Golden State brought in Zaza, David West, and re-signed Ian Clark. Just like that, they reloaded around Curry, Thompson, Green, and Iggy with one of the most top-heavy rosters the league had seen. teams across the league scrambled. The cap spike, jumping from around $70 million to over $94 million, flooded front offices with spending power. What followed was a spending spree that felt more like a game show than strategy. Detroit backed up the armored truck for Drummond with a 5-year deal worth around $130 million. They didn't stop there, tossing out deals to John Lawyer, Ish Smith, and Boban. Meanwhile, Boston scored Al Horford on a 4-year contract worth roughly $113 million, one of the biggest gets of the summer. Toronto made sure DeMar stayed in town, locking him up on a 5-year deal, close to $139 million. Charlotte threw nearly $120 million at Nicholas Batum, while the Lakers handed Jordan Clarkson $50 million over 4 years. And speaking of Los Angeles, the Lakers also gave Timofey Mozgov a 4-year deal worth around $64 million, a move that quickly aged like unrefrigerated milk. Miami secured Whiteside with a contract worth nearly $98 million over 4 years, but also handed Luol Deng a 4-year, $72 million deal. That one raised some eyebrows, even before training camp. Atlanta picked up Dwight Howard for a 3-year deal close to $70 million, trying to recapture some interior dominance. They also kept Kent Bazemore in the fold on a $70 million contract over 4 years. Memphis went full in on Mike Conley, giving him the biggest deal in league history at the time, 5 years, around $153 million. He became the highest paid player without ever making an all-star team, which felt like a trivia answer waiting to happen. Meanwhile, other teams filled out with more mid-level names. Jeremy Lin joined Brooklyn, and Bismack went to Orlando. There were trades too, though not as headline-grabbing as the Durant move. The 3-team trade involving Jeff Teague reshaped a few rosters. Teague went to Indiana, George Hill landed in Utah, and Atlanta grabbed the number 12 pick in the draft. That deal helped the Hawks clear space for Horford and Bazemore. Teague had been playing through a knee injury during the previous season, so Indiana was betting on a bounce back. Indiana also brought in Al Jefferson and Aaron Brooks to round out the bench. They lost Ian Mahinmi and Solomon Hill in the process, which wasn't nothing, but they hoped the new additions would make up for it. Utah, meanwhile, picked up George Hill to add experience and control to their backcourt. Golden State's reshuffling didn't stop at Durant. The Bogut deal, while essential for cap reasons, cost them a key defender. But the additions of David West and Zaza gave them cheaper veteran presence. The roster was getting top-heavy, but not without flexibility. A few small moves, like re-signing Clark and snagging bench pieces, helped balance it out. Detroit got louder too. After re-signing Drummond, they added size and depth by bringing in Bairstow and Jody Meeks through trades. It was clear they weren't content to sit still. Their front office went full Home Depot and bought every tool on the shelf. Around the league, smaller trades kept the wire buzzing. Teams shuffled expiring contracts, moved second-round picks, and handed out cash like confetti. Most of it was about clearing space or plugging holes, not seismic shifts. But even those minor moves added up in a summer when every team was chasing relevance. The cap jump didn't just shake things up, it turned regular free agency into a turbocharged frenzy. A lot of those contracts ended up being questionable. Overpaying for role players, aging veterans, or inconsistent production became the rule, not the exception. Teams with flexibility felt pressure to spend, and once Durant joined Golden State, the rest of the league seemed to panic. Oklahoma City was left picking up the pieces. Losing their franchise player forced them to pivot, putting everything on Russell Westbrook's shoulders. Golden State became the villain overnight, stacked with stars and running on all cylinders. Everyone else had to decide: chase stars, build slow, or throw money and hope it sticks. The offseason didn't just change rosters, it altered trajectories. Some of those deals became anchor contracts, others vanished quietly. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.